Hi, everyone. Welcome back to New West Reset. My name is Frankie. Hello. Thanks for shooting in and joining me here for another New West chill chat. And actually, this is going to be our second chat here today with our friend Old World Exploration. So, welcome, my friend. How are you doing today?
Oh man.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Morning, Frankie. Good. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. Am I good?
Yeah, you seem to be loud and clear. Your
Yeah.
avatar, though, the thing that says please start mini cam or choose another video source.
Yeah. Um, I had my logo.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. Yeah. Um, I can change that, right? I must have.
I think if you leave
Edit audio avatar.
Oh yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, there you go.
If I
I was
leave,
going to say if
you see it?
no, it still looks like the same. I mean, it doesn't matter that much, but it's still showing.
Oh, it does. No, I know.
Yeah,
Up
well,
there.
I
I'm trying to
think
clean.
if you down at the
This would be a
bottom,
bit silly, don't you think?
what's that? I think if you hit leave
No, go ahead.
studio,
Just go say what you're going to say.
I was going to say if you hit leave studio at the
Okay.
bottom, it'll let you edit your avatar, and then you can just jump back in again. I think.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
give it a go.
There we go. Yeah, much better. I,
All
I
right.
like your the photo of that of
Can you still hear me?
yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that picture of your avatar. That's I think I commented on that last time. You were saying it's like a state capitol building or a city hall building somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's Calgary, right?
That's
This
Calgary
one
City
here.
Hall?
Yeah. This is. That's. It is. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I thought that's why you were drawn to it.
I didn't even
That's funny.
really. Oh, I do see
Um,
now in the
it's just.
middle it says Calgary. Okay, yeah, 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 and tiny little.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all lit up, and it's an older picture, obviously. But
Yeah. Yeah. And it was one of those things when I was just starting my YouTube channel and all that stuff. I needed to get some sort of logo, and it was sort of rushed. Came up quickly on a search, and I liked it because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, it's one of those things. You see these buildings lit up 100 years ago. Throw it on the background and
yes, that's right. A
scratch your
hundred
head a
years
little bit.
ago, these buildings are all lit up, and you're like, wait a second. More than 100 years ago, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a nice. That's a lot of Christmas lights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very, very.
So how have you been?
It's very Griswold looking. I've
That's
been doing
right.
really well.
That's right.
It's super, super cold here today. Uh, oh, is it?
Same as here. Same. Let's have a competition.
It's minus
What are you
minus
at?
33 with the wind chill.
Oh, want me to? Oh, okay, I'll check ours. I'll check my phone, my trusty dusty phone, and they're telling me minus 36 with the wind chill.
Oh wow.
Minus 24 without.
Wow,
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of which, Merry Christmas, by the way, and Happy Holidays to you.
Yeah, same to you. Same to you. I hope you'll make the best of it for sure.
Oh yeah,
I'll do my best.
I always take the time to over the holidays to spend some time with my family. Really, that's kind of what the holidays are all about. It's not so much gifts and all that, just kind of hanging out with my parents, my sister and brother-in-law and their kids, and some of my nieces have children, so I have some great nieces and nephews.
We'll do the same. We'll do our best.
Yeah, that's really what it's about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of doing the same as last time, where I'm recording it and broadcasting it simultaneously, but we're not live, even though it says up in the top that we're live.
Okay.
We are live, but it's on a private setting, so nobody can see. That way, later on, if any editing needs to be done or whatever, and we can take care of that, no problem. And also, I'm trying this new thing that StreamYard's doing called local recording or something like that. So basically what it does is it records the audio and video, I guess, locally on a server for you that StreamYard uses and locally on a server for me, so that if there's any buffering or choppiness on either end, it eliminates that through once it's rendered. So it should make for a sort of a smoother recording. And also on Cyber Monday there a while back, I bought an Ethernet cable, so I'm plugged directly into my internet now instead of using the Wi-Fi, because I know here Wi-Fi can be dodgy, and I think last time we were talking, you were saying your Wi-Fi can be dodgy sometimes too.
Yeah. I had that thought before I came on today, and something I'll have to look into doing here, I think, as well.
Yeah, I just went on to the excuse me. I just went onto the Best Buy website.
So we'd have a bit of a delay.
A bit. I think it's about 5 to 10 seconds at the most.
Go on.
But yeah, I went to the Best Buy website on Cyber Monday, and I think it was $30 for a 50-foot Ethernet cable. So I thought, shit, man, order that, pay for it online, and have it shipped right to my apartment.
Yeah.
Because it was too cold to traipse over to Best Buy. It's not far; it's maybe 12 blocks away, but I didn't feel like traipsing out there minus 20 something on that day. So.
Yeah, praying for that Chinook to roll in, eh?
Well, it's crazy because yesterday it started getting cold. It was about minus.
I know you.
Minus 10, minus 15, but the day before was only minus 2. So we had a Chinook up until the day before yesterday, and then yesterday started getting cold, and this morning I woke up to this minus 30 crap. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think we're hunkering down for the week here. It looks like it's supposed to stay like this for us till the end of the week here. So
yeah, me too. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, not fun. But speaking of fun and Christmas coming up, you've got some little ones, right? You've got, last time we talked, was it you have two kids?
Yeah, 3. I've got 3.
Oh, 3. Okay, so the holiday season,
primary school aged.
Yeah, so the Christmas time must be great. Must be really kind of exciting and a lot of buzz going on in the household over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've been all told that today Daddy's doing a live chat this morning, so don't come barging into where Daddy's doing his live chat.
Oh, okay. Great, great.
Yeah, but they're my junior explorers, so maybe they want to chime in on a picture. Who knows? You never know.
Oh, that'd be great. I mean, sure, why not? I know that you've had on a lot of your uploads, you've had some of the junior
Yeah.
explorers in there, giving their sort of their ideas, their thoughts on a lot of the photos, and it's actually two things. It's actually really cute because
Yeah, on a few.
out of the mouths of babes, but it's also quite compelling that
Uh-huh.
what I'm guessing. Well, you said primary school age, so what I'm guessing is a kid under the age of 10 is already so perceptive that
Mhm.
they haven't had a 20 or 30-year lifetime yet of being bombarded with propaganda and false history. So they look at something and they can see that something looks weird. They may not be able to express in the context what's weird about it, but they can see something's off. And I always kind of dig that when you have one of the junior explorers, as you call
Yeah,
them, on your
yeah. Their narrative is being shaped, right?
yeah, yeah. So I always find that really neat when they're on there.
Yeah, it's interesting to get their perspective and things that seem to make a lot more like intuitive sense to them, where we have to sort of rack our brains to figure it out. I do notice that sometimes, even when I'm on the couch showing them photos of wild places that I'm looking at online, and they look at it and they know it's just it doesn't fit the narrative that they're being spoon fed right now, for one, and what we were spoon fed when we were young. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why I think about like myself looking back since I was basically a kid, like let's say, 8 or 9 or 10. I've always been interested in old stuff. I think partially is because every weekend we were at my grandparents'
Hmm.
farm. So, and my granddad just kept a bunch of his old stuff. Like he still used the same hammer he'd been using for 60 years. And he still had the old tractor that he'd had for like 40 years. And if it broke down, he just fixed it himself. So I was exposed at an early age to lots of sort of antique stuff. And it kind of stuck with me through my adult life. So I think in some respects, a lot of times our influences in our early lives can sort of shape or mold things that can become maybe not necessarily a driving force in our life, but kind of little side interests, things that have always kind of sparked our curiosity, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I get that. And then there's appreciation for the old as well, rather than the like a disdain. You almost get a disdain for the old these days with people that have no concept of history. They just want forward, onward and upward and forward, right? But if you develop an appreciation for what's old, the patina on a piece of metal or a tool or something like that, that I think that's where I'm at with as a carpenter with tools and antique stuff. How
Yes.
some things just get better with age, right? And they don't deteriorate.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we know this in our community from looking at
So
not
that maybe we're both intuitively drawn to that.
sure, yeah. And well, people in our community know this from not only, let's say, observing photographs. Some of us do boots on the ground. There's a lot of people that not only look at photographs of old buildings, but they look at old books, old artwork, old sculptures, old machines, old tech. And yeah, that seems like,
Hmm.
there's an appreciation
Hmm.
to the craftsmanship. It was built to last. A lot of times they were user friendly, so laymen could swap out a part or make their own part. If let's say a spring wore out on some lever on some doodad that you were using, you could just tighten your own string, put it back in, and the thing's working like new again. Whereas these days it's almost like disposable. Oh, the iPhone 11 is
Yeah,
obsolete now,
yeah,
so I'm
exactly.
gonna
And then
throw
we're
it in a
so
bin. You know.
it's, yeah, it's what is it? Planned obsolescence, I believe they call that. Everything is made to be broken.
Yes.
It's part of our throwaway culture, right?
Yeah. When I was a kid, we
Yeah,
had the
and which
same.
I would suspect people in our community have. Well, I know people in our community don't like it.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, we had the same
Go ahead.
Zenith television for like 20 years. These days you're lucky if a TV lasts you 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, or like the old washer dryers and refrigerators from the '60s still running.
Yeah, my dad has.
And then you buy a new dishwasher, and
It's funny you say
it
that.
gives you. I've actually bought coffee makers and dishwashers that last 5 years, almost on the button, like they have a trigger switch.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
I've noticed it in some appliances.
It's funny you mentioned the old
Hmm.
refrigerators. My mom and dad have two of them. They have one in the basement. It's kind of like the beer fridge, and they have one in the garage that they use just
Mm.
sort of this, again, like an overflow sort of refrigerator, because the access to the garage from inside the house through the kitchen, right? So the extra milk and all that kind of stuff goes in the old
Hmm.
refrigerator that's in the garage too, and that thing's from the '60s and it still runs fine. You just got to defrost it like twice a year and it's good,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's another thing too. Maintenance is not something that gets done with anything new, because we don't how we've lost know-how as well, I think, and people don't know how to maintain what they own.
It's amazing how many people can't even change a flat tire or change the oil in on their own car, the same car that they've owned for, let's say, 5
Hmm.
years, whatever. And they always take it to some Jiffy Lube oil change place, oil change
Hmm.
express R us or whatever, to get that
Hmm.
15-minute, $60 oil
Hmm.
change or whatever, and
Yeah,
that's it. Rather than crawling in, even brand new cars, you can still change the oil yourself. You don't
yeah,
screw up the car by doing that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Hmm.
So, what else is going on with you over there on your channel? You're still um, doing a lot of your uploads with again these beautiful photos that you find, and I kind of wanted to pick your brain actually, but where do you find a lot of these photos? Because I
Sure.
occasionally
Yeah, I haven't been.
I occasionally look at old photos on my channel, but not as often as you do, and you find some great ones.
Yeah, I think I just it's just a digging. Like I just do typical searches on the DuckDuckGo, and then I'll follow a thread sort of. So if I'm looking in a particular city, um, I'll just type that city in old photos. It doesn't give me much, um, but then I'll follow a particular building in that city, and then sometimes it'll produce better results.
Hmm.
So, and I have with the card cow as well, which is um, the postcard website that I usually I'll go through the postcards from that city. I'll find the name of a building, and then I'll specifically type it in looking for a photograph. Often I don't find photographs of some of these that are in postcard form. So a
So
lot of them are
you're
lost to history, except for on a website like that.
so you're finding the perhaps the old postcard image online, but not
I can,
necessarily
yeah,
a picture of that same building as the photograph, or as a different photograph from a different angle or a different photographer. But let's say of that
that's
same
right.
time
It's
period,
like it's non-existent.
huh? Which is weird because you'd have to have at some
That's
point
right. It's almost
you'd
like
have
they've
to
been
at some point have the
scrubbed.
original photograph to make the postcard out of. The postcard exists in image form online, but not the original photo. That's weird.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's strange. I don't know if there's I like as I don't know if there's an active attempt to um, erase the evidence of this stuff digitally. That's pretty paranoid, I guess you could say. But um, I don't know. Some of these are just really, really hard to find in photograph form. So
Wonder if a lot of these photos are
yeah, I'll
behind,
leave it at that, I guess.
like old photos that are part of private collections and they're behind a paywall or something. So you have to pay to access to view and even download photos. Because I come across that quite a bit, but I wonder if it's kind of a lot more prevalent than a guy would think, that like if you dug a little deeper, you'd find, oh, there is such and such photograph of so and so building, but it's in the private collection of some guy whose, great grandfather took the picture, and, he's not releasing it to the public unless you, whatever, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're probably spot on there. I'm sure there's a lot of that going on. especially if there is a deliberate attempt to hide, like we were talking about, Grandpa was a Freemason,
Yes. Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
If there is a deliberate attempt to hide some of the stuff in private collections, you know, so I wouldn't count that out at all, for sure.
So you were talking about you use this postcard website, and
I have quite a few.
and there might be a building that
I
strikes
do.
your
I do.
fancy, and
Yeah.
then you'll get the name of that building, and then look for, excuse me, other photos of it. But let me ask you, how do you decide?
Yeah.
Let's say your next upload is going to be, I don't know, St. Louis. Like, how do you land on St. Louis? Is it just kind of a natural process where you're looking at old pictures and you're finding, like, oh, this is a cool looking building. Oh, it happens to be in Wisconsin, Grafton, Wisconsin. So you check out Grafton, Wisconsin, and kind of go from there? Or do you set out, okay, today I want to do Sacramento, California, and then jump into Sacramento stuff?
Yeah. That's basically what I'll do. I look at the map and look at the way that how the highways intersect each other is sort of what I'm doing now.
Okay.
I can screen share if you want. I can show you how I do that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Should I do
Anything
that,
you
or?
want to, sure. Anything you want to do. Like I said, it's just our chill chat here. So, anything you want to do, if
Okay.
you want to screen
I'll show
share
you,
some
show you how I do
photos
that.
or any projects you're working on or whatever, yeah, jump right on it. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll share the screen here.
By the way, as you're doing that, I'll just remind
make sure
everybody that they can visit you, zip on over to your channel and show you some love. All the links and all the details and the who's, what's, it's, and whatnots will always, as usual, be in the description box below.
Okay. Okay. Are we good? You can see what I'm doing here?
I can. I'm just going to quickly open up the YouTube.
So, I mean, you probably noticed
even though it's in private setting, it still shows up on the YouTube, so I can make sure that when it is uploaded that everybody can see it. I think they can, though. Let's see here. Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So you've probably noticed a lot of my focus is in this area. I don't know why I'm so drawn to the Great Lakes area and the greater area around there.
Well, geographically, there's a lot going on in the Great Lakes
but
area.
I started basically looking at how all the roads intersect each other. I mean, it's not the only place I look, but it's there's so much. I think you could throw a dart at this map and then zoom in and you'll find old world, yada yada.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
But now what I'm doing is I'm basically just looking. You see how the highways intersect? Like you have all this, and you have the cities at those. That's why I do kind of pinpoint those, because I think it's the infrastructure. It's old world infrastructure, so they had to have been a part of this whole grid system. Although I know a lot of highways weren't there then, but the railroads were.
Yes. Yeah.
But like, for instance, this might be a place I'd look at. Albert Lea, I haven't, but because it intersects here, it might be a place that is worth a little bit more interest. So that's just one way that I like to do it, and it's really, for me, it's just alleviating not boredom, but it's a hobby of mine, so I actually enjoy it. Like I said, I think I told you last time, it's like playing solitaire for some people on the computer.
Yes.
You just kind of scroll through these areas that you've never been to or heard of, and check out what they have to offer from late 1800s.
Yeah. Well, I would actually take it one step further as well.
I have a file.
I would take it one step further as well and say it's not even so much like playing solitaire on your laptop or whatever. It's just gaming in general, right? It's whether you're playing a game online or on a console or any kind of video gaming.
Sure.
There's elements of adventure and investigation. There's some points where you're just mashing a guy's beating the hell out of the controller to defeat a boss or something. but then there's other points in the game where you have to strategize and use your brain. So there's sort of like the excitement of making a discovery when you're messing around on the map, let's say looking at places, can kind of compare to a lot of what the emotional fun gaming and the adventure and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. It's some people have
That's a good
different
analogy. I
interests
like
and
that,
different
actually.
hobbies, but a lot of times these hobbies are for the same reasons, even though the hobbies could be worlds apart, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I wondered if you're interested in going through one of these locations together, and just sort of like I do on my videos, but the two of us chiming in instead of me.
Absolutely.
Just me. If you're interested in doing something like that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You can see this list here. I mean, you choose the location.
Oh wow.
I'm easy.
Well, let's keep it Canadian, eh?
Unless you want me to.
So, a guy's looking at.
Is there anywhere you've been? Anywhere on here that you've been?
I've been to Hamilton, but it was a long time ago. It was before the age of 10 because I moved to Alberta when I was 10. But I do remember going to Hamilton when I was a kid. I can't remember what the hell drove from Montreal to Hamilton for, but maybe we were camping someplace nearby Hamilton. But I do remember as a kid going to Hamilton. I don't remember much about it, so that might be kind of cool.
Yeah. Check out Hamilton. Oh, it's empty. Oh no. I have yet to.
You're such a tease.
I thought I've looked in Hamilton. I must have.
All right. Well, how
Sorry
about
that. I owe you big time. Now I got to make a good Hamilton file for our next chat.
Well, how about something then in that Great Lakes area?
See if they're all empty.
It can be something in the U.S., but the Great Lakes.
Okay, somewhere in here, maybe Dubuque, Decatur.
Sure, yeah.
Or even
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
No, I thought Okay, let's do Green Bay. That's a good call. So I'll do just like I start with my videos. I usually just zone in for people that don't know the region, right?
Yeah, to kind of get an idea roughly where the place is and where we're looking at here. Because a lot of times context.
There's Green Bay, and
is important,
the geography is it's interesting too. Yeah. I try to provide a little bit. I mean, it's really just visuals, but a little bit of historical narrative and then a little bit of geography before we get into it.
Yeah, I try to.
Here's Green Bay. All I've ever thought about Green Bay is cheese and Packers.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's my.
Of course, right? Because that's the simplified.
I mean, it's a stereotype, like everything, right?
That's the simplified distilled narrative we're given. Okay, Green Bay, Wisconsin is all about cheese and the Packers, and that's all you need to know. Now move along. No more questions. Move along.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. That's right. Yeah, you don't want to go there. You don't want to. That's kind of what you don't. Why would you ever want to go there? You get that from a lot of places too. That's sort of tied in with the location of some of these, especially Midwestern areas. Hollywood is really put into our heads that why do you want to go to the Midwest? There's nothing in the Midwest.
Yeah, what do they call that in the States?
So
they call that
part of it, I think.
The flyover states or something like that, because supposedly nobody ever travels to these areas, and it's I think it's some of it might have to do with the fact that there's a lot hidden there.
LA to New York.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't bother with.
Yeah,
don't bother with Kansas.
That's very
or
possible.
whatever. Well, if you look at really old maps, it's because that was part of the Louisiana territories, and it was part of, prior to, the Western expansion of the United States. It was all just either Native American Indian reservations, or it was part of the old Louisiana territory. So in the birth of the United States as a nation, it wasn't really included initially. So it's like, why bother?
Yeah. Louisiana Purchase. Yeah. I think you're right. It's a part of obscuring the true history of our past, basically.
Yeah, because they want us to follow the narrative that
So
everything
let's
is
just roll through,
older
and
and more
this is, I
developed.
mean, again, a lot of
Everything's older and more developed in the East, and then perhaps on the West Coast, like Vancouver and San Francisco and LA. But
mhm,
everything in
mhm.
between was
Everything's new
just
in the West, and
everything in between was just wild
yeah,
frontier and wild Injuns, and that's it. And there was nothing there, you know.
that's right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I like the old high schools. Those ones, they come up everywhere. I When I'm doing this research, I get this like a foggy or hazy vision of the Hollywood ethos of high school. You know how that's so strongly ingrained in our, even in our culture in Canada. The process of going to high school, you're a jock, you're a nerd, you're a cheerleader, all that type of Hollywood reality,
Yeah,
um, just sort of rings in my ears when I see these old high schools
yeah, I think I know what you
as
mean.
a
It's
program, as like a societal program, like just like stamped on us.
Sure. Well, really, if you think about it, in sort of in our quote unquote modern Western society, we don't have a lot of what would be considered rites of passage for young men and young women like there used to be, or like there still are in older cultures or
Mm,
in, let's say, Eastern cultures or what have you. So going to high school and navigating that whole
mhm,
social thing has become the new rite of passage for a lot of young adults. And getting back to what you're saying too about, predictive programming and all that kind of stuff. If you think about it, even movies or television shows where the target audience are adults far removed from high school age, there's a lot of shows and movies that take place in and around high schools. Like Back to the Future. I mean, Marty was a high school
mhm,
kid, just as a quick example. Spider-Man, one of the
mhm.
hugest pop culture icons in
Yeah,
history.
it's
Peter Parker was
no,
a high
you're
school
right.
kid at first, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're
Oh
right
yeah,
too
yeah,
with
yeah.
it. It splits
Yeah,
people into little
it's not just the
boxes.
place where you learn the new narrative.
When you said
That's
jocks,
right.
nerd,
Yeah,
yeah,
compartmentalizes
it
us.
sets
Yeah.
up your brain to compartmentalize all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. It makes us very basic in our thinking, which is, I think, is the intention, like to categorize everything and everyone, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Right.
And then if it doesn't fit into any
And
kind
it's
of category,
part of
then
a
you
huge
can
part. They're the places
discard
that
it.
that gets done, or where that begins, I would say.
Yeah. Hey, let me
Yeah.
ask you something.
And now we're at 100 years of this. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. When it comes to old high schools, I've noticed in some of my research, not only actually out there filming stuff, but just like you say, kind of messing around looking at images online, that high schools tend to fall in visually into two
Hmm.
categories. They're either kind of the style where it's kind of a low, long building, only 2 or 3 stories, excuse me, flat roof, very sort of
Hmm.
basic, what they call sort of prairie style or whatever, or it's the
Hmm.
more sort of cathedral style with spires, bell towers, that kind of thing.
Hmm. Well, I think I almost feel like those cathedral style ones were a mistake on the resetting of a narrative.
Yeah,
They
because
should
they don't
never have
really
used those
look
as high schools.
like high
We might have
schools.
bought the long 2-story, 3-story. Yeah, those are the ones that jump out at us, right? It's
Mm,
like, come on, guys, it's sloppy. That's sloppy, I think. Excuse me.
yeah, awfully
So, I
fancy
mean, I
looking
think
for a
there is a
bunch
lot
of
of.
uh,
I think that,
awfully fancy looking for a bunch of 15-year-old kids
yeah,
who,
too fancy, right? There's a lot of sloppiness, and well, okay, I had a student that was from Ottawa, and he had attended a high school there that was Old World building. Oh man, I should dig that up. I have to remember the name of it now. And he said that the fifth floor was off limits of that high school, and the students all had rumors about what went on up there, like it was the old wives' tale type thing, student wise, right? But
huh.
it was definitely an old world building. There's no question about it. There's some fishy photos. Yeah, I'll dig it
Yes,
up later in our chat if I can find it. Well,
Yeah, that'd be cool. Now, see this one you're showing now, West High
yeah, I
School.
can't remember the name. It was in Ottawa.
It's either this style, which I can sort of buy as, okay, that
Yeah.
looks a little bit more like a high school, although still super fancy for just, kids that are just basically going to be inside most of the day. They're not going to be admiring all of that detail and the architectural structure of it. But with that said, it's a little easier to buy that than the ones with all the towers
No,
and
the students
spires.
won't care about that.
But still, this could be anything. It could be a hospital. It could
Well,
be a
then I have to wonder,
warehouse. It could be you know what I mean?
could there have
Whatever
been a
they,
little tower here? You never know, too. Like,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. They slap a name on these places, and you're right. It could be anything. It could be a industrial house for wherever. Like if it was by the water, that's what it would be.
Yeah,
It
if
would
it's
be
near the
some
water,
sort
it was a
of
factory of some kind.
industrial building.
Yeah.
Several stories tall. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Or federal buildings gets very similar look here. The giveaway too is the basement access to. Well, they're in everything, and they have like basement entrance and things like that on a lot of these old buildings.
Yeah, like this federal building.
So when I see this jumps out at me as old world. When you see the decoration here,
yeah,
and then you see this type of stuff, and then the arch windows, it's just not how we think. We don't even think this way. I don't think it's from a different civilization. I mean, I don't think it's us. People are like, oh, you think it's aliens and stuff like that. No, it's just a different humanity, a different way of being.
Yeah, because I think there was a different mindset with.
Obviously, I don't know any details.
There was a different mindset when it came to constructing these things. I just talked about that on my last live stream that I just did. When was that? Friday morning, late morning, early afternoon. That I think a lot of it is form and function. Like aesthetically, in terms of the form of it, it's beautiful looking. But I think that there was some kind of function to a lot of, maybe not necessarily the carvings over the doors and stuff, but to a lot of the little trinkets and bobules and doodads that we see on the roofs of these things, and
Well, how about this? How about they knew that form and function worked hand in hand. So even when we make something that appears formless or plain, the function of that is plain. Like that's the brutalist architecture, right? So they knew in what they were building that the function and the form had to be blended. Like it was the only way they knew how to be or to build and so on. Like that's I mean, it could all be okay. This is a tech and this is energy comes down through here and charges this and this. And I know a lot of people get right into that stuff, and it's possible, but that might even be taking it too far as I'm concerned. It could just be, it's a part of the energy of the building and the culture is to build that in that style.
Yeah, I think when we see a lot of really tall towers with what looks like old antennas on it, that perhaps could have been some kind of energy or ether gathering device. But like you said, a lot of the beauty of the sculpting could also be emitting an energy, but it's just that positive vibe energy that you get by looking at something or listening to something or tasting something or touching something that is beautiful.
Yeah, so like an energetically holistic culture.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Not like ours. No. Yeah. What do you think of the Oddfellows? Do you know anything? That's like a secret society, isn't it?
Yeah, they're a branch of the Freemasons.
Have you ever heard anything about that?
I know a little bit about the Oddfellows and the Shriners. What's the women's version? Something of the Eastern Star. Because a coworker of mine is quite high up in the local Calgary Freemasonry. He's a nice guy, but I kind of pick his brain a bit about Freemasonry, kind of on the download, just to try to mine some kind of information just through casual conversation with the guy. But I know the Oddfellows are sort of not every Freemason is an Oddfellow, but every Oddfellow is a Freemason, kind of like Shriners. The Oddfellows were kind of, I think, I know that part of the official narrative in the past is the Oddfellows were started to help children, help orphans. And I know there's a strong link between the Oddfellows and the orphan trains, orphanages, and organizing where they would ship city kids off
Isn't
into
that
rural
interesting?
parts of the country, not only the United States, but Canada and other parts of the world as well, to go work on farms with foster families and yada, yada, yada. And that was the Oddfellows.
Mm. Do you subscribe to Mind Unveiled, that YouTube channel?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
He's been doing some interesting, or they, I think that's two. There's two of them doing some interesting work on the reset narrative of the orphans and all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, I've seen I think I've
In the last 2 or 3
seen the
videos. I don't
last
know if you've
couple
seen
of
those.
videos. Yeah. Yeah, the whole Cabbage Patch thing, that's kind of a neat.
These couple here, I find that pretty interesting. It's like they're really zoning in on that.
You know what it hit me?
Got a lot of attention. I noticed it made it rounds.
What hit me about the whole Cabbage Patch doll thing, especially, was when we were kids. I've got a sister who's 3 years younger than me. So when I was, let's say, I don't know, 12, my sister was around 9, right at that age, early 80s, right around that age when Cabbage Patch dolls were all their age and little old ladies were beating the crap out of each other to get the last one at the
I
store.
remember that era. Yeah.
My sister got 2 of them for Christmas one year. And I just remember that was the biggest thing for her and her friends for probably 3 years. And you adopted these Cabbage Patch dolls, and they came with adoption papers with a name, a little backstory, a date of birth, the whole bit.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Looking back, it's kind of creepy.
And you have the Stark narrative, of course. The Disney Stark narrative is etched in our minds.
Yep.
Well, absolutely, it is. Yeah, it's creepy, all right. Yeah. So that's an interesting rabbit hole to go down. I think it's a big part of trying to understand what happened in this period of time. Just so you know, I've switched files to old hotels of New York. So I'll just keep it as background, I guess.
Sure. Look at that place, by the way. That's a behemoth.
There's some interesting stuff in here too. Yeah. Well, wait. The whole old hotel narrative I really want to get into. I was talking about the high school, the romanticism of our high school narrative, like how that's sort of etched in our culture. Well, I think there's also a hotel narrative in our culture. Pop culture gets into haunted hotels, murder at the hotel. The sort of the cultural paradigm that we have thinking of hotels. I don't know if you can relate to that at all.
Well, it also, and old hotels had
the bell
had speakeasies in the basement. The old speakeasies hidden underneath the buildings. It's always in old hotels. You never hear of a speakeasy underneath an old office building or underneath an old warehouse. It's always an old hotel.
And then I know some of the more esoteric accounts that I follow in places like Twitter talk about hotels as being like timeline jump spots and things like. When even Hollywood's gone down that road, actually. 13th floor, that whole thing with the superstition of the 13th floor. So that's a really interesting narrative, I think, too, that I'd like to explore a bit more. The hotel and some of these, like you said, behemoths, right? There's some of these coming up here. Wait till you see them.
I mean, they're so
this is all
huge.
New York, right? These old hotels, but they're in all these cities too. It doesn't.
It's so bloody huge for
I think so. I commented on one of your videos.
Like, let's say this thing was built, I don't know what year this hotel,
for what it is, right?
This hotel, what is it, Commodore or whatever? I don't know what year it was built, but I'm going to guess the narrative is the 19
But you can see what era we're in here. You get it.
Yeah, because we're in the 20s now by those cars, judging by the cars.
And
but
it's massive.
So it not only calls into question where they get all the manpower, where they get all the resources, not only money, but the actual physical resources, the brick, the stone, the metal, the glass, yada, yada. But where are all the people that are supposedly staying in this hotel? Even if you have some people that are actually living in the hotel, they rent out 2 rooms, some rich guy, and he just lives in the hotel rather than owning a home. Sure. But even still, how do you fill a hotel like that in the 1920s? Even in New York, because it's not the only hotel in town. In downtown New York, there's a hotel
Oh,
every 2 blocks.
I've got a file. That's what I'm showing. I got 73 pictures here of old hotels from New
Just New
York.
York.
So there,
Crazy.
you had your pick. You had your pick of the litter
Look at this
if you were going
place.
to stay in a hotel in there. Yeah, Hotel Walcott.
I could sort of
Yeah.
understand why you would, according to
So
their
that's an
narrative,
interesting.
make a hotel a little fancier. You've got somebody coming in from out of town, maybe on
Look at
vacation,
these.
maybe on business. You want to make an
Yeah.
impression
Well, I mean,
about how great your town or your city is. So you're going to make your hotel maybe fancy.
mhm.
I could sort of understand the narrative of why you would make a church fancy, but why a high school or a warehouse make that fancy, I
Excuse
have
me.
no idea. But a hotel, I mean, even still, though, these are quite opulent and
Yeah. Well,
quite
the hotel. That's
huge.
another thing with hotels. That the narrative. Yeah, we're aiming for that high-end clientele, right? That's the justification that you see here too. Um, and a place of luxury. Hotel is synonymous with luxury.
Yeah.
Like if you're, some people would just go stay in a hotel, and that's their vacation. Is the fact that they're in a hotel is the vacation, right?
Well, it was a lot
So these
more.
ones get me as well. Look, we're way back
Oh,
here.
yeah, look at that. Horse-drawn trolleys instead of electric trolleys. Yeah.
You see the horses pulling the
Yeah.
streetcars? Yeah, that's because that's what they're originally made for, right? That makes a lot of sense. First the horses pulled them, and then electricity came, and then we
It
didn't need the
looks
horses in that
so
situation.
ridiculous.
Right.
A horse pulling what 10 years later is the identical streetcar, but now it's powered by electric, whereas a decade prior it was pulled by a horse. It doesn't even look like it was designed to be pulled by a horse.
I think it's a gaping hole.
Yeah.
It's a gaping hole in their narrative, to be honest. I think it's
To
just
me,
like,
my theory on that
what's
is
this
that
too?
they
Oh,
had dug everything out.
I know what that symbol is. I've seen that before.
They've dug everything out and they start putting it to use, but they hadn't reverse engineered it to figure out how to get it to work yet. So
Yeah.
they were using it, and at the same time, they were guys probably trying to figure out how to
Uh-huh.
use them properly. So it's like, okay, in the meantime, we'll pull them with horses, but we'll
Yeah.
figure it
Well, if you
out.
see some of the streetcars from the era, they look old. They look old. Some of those old streetcars, like they dusted them off. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like this was just manufactured in the plant in Chicago, and like they look old. So no
The
shortage of, this is called the
size,
Ambassador Hotel. No shortage of these. These are massive, massive buildings,
huge.
right? And like people have to understand the difficulty, the undertaking of building a high-rise building. Um, we see the we see the pictures, the construction photos every once in a while, but
Wow, look at that
it just
place.
looks so piecemeal. I don't know. There's so, yeah, this isn't spectacular. Ansonia, the Ansonia. Yeah, this is something special, isn't it? This is a dead giveaway. If you honestly think that in 1900, 1902, or maybe even 18s, I should look it up. Hotel Ansonia. Let's look it up.
But
We don't always target
it's
in.
got portals, it's got little wrought iron balconies, it's got
Yeah, at the top there.
yeah, it's got I mean the domes, the spires, of course, all of that is just amazing.
hmm It has a Wikipedia. Here it is. I'll get out of here. Wikipedia. Um,
1897.
1897. There we have it.
Wow.
Residential hotel. hmm Here, let's have a quick look. Luxurious apartments. Of course, luxurious. Are you kidding me? Look at the building. Multiple rooms, parlors, libraries, formal dining rooms, often round or oval, these rooms. Oh, wow. That's I'd love to see some interior shots. Do we have any on here? Oh, man.
Sounds incredible. But see, that
That's
speaks to
creepy.
what I would just
I
mention,
find a
that
lot of these old
even
photos,
if you have
they're
people
starting to freak me
living,
out.
even if you have people living in the hotels as their permanent, residents, it still doesn't
hmm
account for the size of it. Like that thing has hundreds and hundreds of rooms.
No. Yeah,
Look at it.
here we
Beautiful.
go.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah. It's
It doesn't
spectacular,
belong
isn't it?
in where are we? In New York
Yeah.
still, right? That doesn't belong
And
in New York.
that had to be demolished at least, but 60s at the latest.
That looks like
No,
it should
it has to
be
be
in
torn down.
Bavaria or like the old Czech Republic. You know what I mean?
No, that
Something like that. Poland,
yes. Yeah, the detail
Vienna,
on it,
like
right?
not.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I don't know. New York, you could
It
sort
was
of buy
converted
it,
to
I
a condo
guess, but
apartment building. It's it's what we think of as, but here you're getting a sense. Look at the detail here. And then this has been clipped, obviously, the top, but
yeah, look at the
oh wow,
balconies, the
it really is
terraces.
amazing.
Each it looks like each
Wouldn't
floor
that be
has
something?
either a
Step out of your balcony,
balcony
have a
or a
smoke
little
up there with your neighbor.
bijou, a little what they call a bijou balcony, where it's that sort of half balcony. It's just amazing.
A little like half round? Is that what the bijou is?
It's
Okay,
sort of
yeah.
where the balcony only
Yeah, I didn't
sticks
know
out
that.
about half
That's
as far. Yeah. Well, and then yeah, on the edge you got the round balconies too. Yeah,
yeah,
look at that.
yeah.
It's
I hear what
incredible.
you're saying. Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah. Wouldn't that be something
Who
else?
wouldn't want to live in this place?
Yeah.
Who would
I
not
think I have
want
another one.
to?
Here it is again. Let's see if we can get a little bit. Like I don't know, like visually, this is just like it stimulates different parts of my brain than what we build these days. Like even just seeing the curves here, like the mathematics that goes into that. And then of course the physicality of putting it together and the skill that it would take to get all this right. This thing is flawless.
Yeah, well, and with somebody
You
who
know,
has a
it's
building
absolutely
background,
flawless.
you've got a building
And
background.
then
I
there's
have a little bit of a background in construction
mm-hmm,
myself. You look at, like you said, some of those at toward the top
mm-hmm,
where those angles are on those
mm-hmm,
domes and where it meets the structure of the building. I mean, that's not just a few guys with hammers and nails and some wood and
mm-hmm.
some concrete and Bob's your uncle. I mean, these are skilled craftsmen, and that costs extra, takes extra
Mm-hmm.
time. And by
And
the
not only that
narrative,
too.
there wasn't enough time. People were scratching out a living. Times were tough. Even in New York, we always hear these narratives about
Yeah,
the the
yeah, yeah.
the crappy living
Uh-huh.
conditions in New York, and people were living in squalor and all this. And sure, there was always the haves and the have-nots, but
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is
Couldn't rub two
just
coins together.
this is just something else. My goodness.
And even think about like you see how it's finished right in. Like it's not a rectangle. It's got this. Like you have to get inside that little alleyway between the building
Yeah.
now and then finish all this in the same manner that you had access to the outside. This even setting up any sort of work platform to get this done in here. It's just I don't know. It just logic goes out the window. You really have to suspend your disbelief to believe this stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh, I
it
agree.
just
I mean, you look at a
it's
photo like
laughable to
that,
me.
and
Anyone
this
that
is a hotel
wants
that,
to shrug this off as just the hard work.
yeah, this is a hotel that to me it looks like a wedding cake. Like it's just absolutely mind-boggling. Like a guy is
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm,
dumbfounded when he looks at this.
mm-hmm.
Just
Absolutely,
amazing.
yeah. Ansonia, right? Yeah,
This one too.
and it's
Like,
not the only one.
jeez,
It's
wow.
not the only one. It's the Astor, Hotel Astor. You have
Oh yeah,
horse and
the
buggy,
Astor,
right?
sure,
Horse and
sure.
buggy,
John Jacob Astor.
and we got this going on. Uh huh. Uh huh.
It looks like if you can zoom in a little bit toward the
Yeah,
bottom on the side of the building, it looks
this
like
is
there's a
ridiculous.
railing that's protecting low windows down there.
Absolutely, we have like almost a walkway down here. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very common on these old ones as well.
Yeah, that's where you would have
Yeah,
your tea
I'll see
room, your
if I
barber
can
shop
find a
would be
better
down there. There might be a
resolution with something like that.
tavern down there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cigar
cigar
shop.
shop. Like, yeah, all that, and that's again, that's part of the narrative. We got to rubber stamp this hotel that
Yeah, tavern.
it has a tavern, a barber shop, and a cigar lounge and a tea room to account for that lower floor.
Cigar lounge, speakeasy, pool, swimming pool in the basement.
Yeah, or
You
even
hear that one
pools and
come up every once in
billiards,
a
a
while.
billiard hall too, sometimes in the basement.
Hmm. This one's advertised as the Barbizon Hotel for women. Just women, I guess. Get this one.
That's a pretty.
And
That's huge
at first
too.
glance, not looking too detailed, but huge still and symmetrical. But and then you look at this, and here you get some fancy
Well,
dancy,
isn't that always the way? Is
and
the
up here this is
fanciest, most
more
beautiful stuff is
cathedral.
way up at the top of the building where no one's going to see it. I mean, if you're on street level and you crane your neck to look up,
You trying to impress
yeah,
up
like
there.
even
Yeah.
even some guy on the sidewalk
I
looking up
guess,
isn't going to be able to
yeah,
see all that. You got to be flying by in a blimp or on the roof of a building across the street or looking out the
you're in the
window of an
dirigible.
adjacent.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Having your tea.
it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that airfare, that blimp airfare, was definitely much more widespread and common than we've been led to believe.
Oh yeah, dirigibles and blimps and stuff. Absolutely. You know, it wasn't even that long ago that anybody could build their own flying machine and fly it. I'm talking pre-World War II. If you were a farmer, you could take
now you can't.
you could take like
Now
a
you're
6-cylinder or even an 8-cylinder if you were goofy enough, and from an old Chevy, and build an airplane around it and take it up and fly it. You didn't have to have a permit, and you didn't have to have this and that. But then eventually, it was either just before World War I or just before World War II. I want to say World War II, though, because you had these crazy farmer crop dusting guys that weren't pilots, but they had their own planes and they could just fly them. So I think there were a lot of flying machines, blimps, dirigibles that were in heavy use prior to the whole, what was it, the Bismarck or whatever that burned up?
Yeah, the Zeppelin. The Zeppelin.
Yeah, that Zeppelin,
Yeah.
the Zeppelin company, the humanity and all that.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden after that, nope, no more blimps.
It's probably public health, right? Yeah, I would imagine the argument of public health is made the case for not allowing people to create their own machines that go in the air.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, it's for your own
Because
safety.
you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah, because we, the government, care about you. Yeah, sure you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at this place, Commonwealth Hotel. Wow.
Yeah.
And again, look how fancy it is at the top.
Right? Look at the bottom. Look at the base here, right? All the arches.
Well, I was just going to say the base is loaded with arches, but the fanciest stuff is always way up at the top.
Yeah, I know.
I think of that on that jut out portion of
it'd be
that
fun
base
to stay,
of the building.
again, I have that vision in my mind of like hotel to hotel.
Yeah. I think, along the top of that sort of base there, that's probably like outdoor dining on the roof of that, or like not up there, but just on the base, the top of the roof of the base of it. There's probably like you could sit up there on a terrace.
Yeah, and then
remember
they go in, right? All these they're built the same way. They have this more maximization of sunlight, maybe each room, as many rooms as possible. Get a room with a window.
Yeah, and where you're not,
that's
and you're not necessarily looking right into an adjacent window. They space them out as best they can, and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some thought to that for sure. Yeah. So it's there's a couple of doozies in here. There's so many too. And Hotel York, like and then so if I have a drawing like this, it's because I could find no other evidence of this structure in any other form. Typically, usually that's what I'll do. Is if I have something like this, I'm like, well, that's not good enough. I want to find an actual picture, but I just can't find it. So, and just no shortage of these.
And they're all so huge. I mean, I'm sure there's a few. Oh, look at that. That's weird. Governor Clinton, Wasn't he the governor of Arkansas before he was the prez?
This is the Clinton that comes up. Well, not that Clinton. I think this one
is.
No,
but I just find it very.
I did a video on the Erie Canal, and this was a. Oh, for sure. I mean, it's bloodlines. Is probably what it is.
Probably. You're right. Yeah.
But yeah. I think this is what they're referring to. The one that supposedly had a hand in the canal. Yeah.
Huh.
but the names seem to pop up over and over. Another one, like, and they all have different names. It's like these are all different hotels. I don't know.
That one looks the top especially.
And here's another one, Salisbury. Look at the top of this one.
Yeah, see that.
I think this one's
That
still
looks like the
stands.
top of, like what they would designate as a church, but no, it's too big and too wide, so it doesn't look like a church, so we can't designate it as a church, so we'll call it a hotel.
Mm-hmm. And Chicago's got some of those as well. I've featured in previous videos, where the top looks like a cathedral and the bottom looks like an office building.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll keep going. I think we got this hotel narrative is interesting. I think there's a lot to pull out of it.
Well, let me tell you,
no shortage, No shortage of any of these.
That's huge. Let me tell you, last summer, and I did a video on this because I managed to grab some quick footage. But last summer, my dad and I were heading out to go fishing, but we needed to stop for gas real quick, and we were about, I don't know, an hour north of Calgary, maybe an hour and a half. Excuse me. There's a town called Didsbury. Mm-hmm. So we stopped in there for gas, and I noticed all these old world buildings, 2, 3, 4-story brick with sandstone or limestone fancy buildings built in, the dates on the buildings, 1899, 1912, whatever, right? So I said to my dad, holy crap, can we whip around here and I'll take some footage of these old world buildings and stuff? And he had been to the town. So he said, yeah, I'll take you down the main road, the old part of town. He said, then I'll show you the old hotel. So in this little town of 1,500 people, which is the most that's ever lived there, there's this bloody huge hotel that takes up half a city block that's 6 stories high, made out of red brick and sandstone. And it's got over 125 rooms in it.
Should I search it?
I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it's in my video.
Didsbury?
Yeah, it's in Didsbury. You could probably just type in old hotel Didsbury, Alberta. Because there's also a Didsbury, England.
Yeah.
So I'm going to watch that.
Oh, yes, okay.
That's not it, though.
Of course there is. Oh, I've had England. Sorry. Early morning Sunday. Sometimes I get in my head of myself on my searches. Let's try this. Didsbury. Did I spell Didsbury right?
Didsb.
That's going to be hard because there it is. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the one. Oh no, that's in Edmonton. Sorry. It kind of looks like that. It doesn't have that conical dome on it, though.
Okay. It's see, this is what I mean. It's difficult. What is this?
I don't even know where that is. Hotel Canada, 1914.
Anyway, I don't want to veer too far off. But go on. Continue your story.
Well, we come around the corner and he's like, okay, here's that old hotel, son, built in 1901. The railroad didn't even come into that town until 1926 or 24 or something like that. There was never any red brick factory in that town.
Oh, really?
It was just a small farming town in sort of central Alberta. It's half an hour off the main highway. Like I said, about an hour and a half north of Calgary, which would make it about an hour and a half south of Edmonton. So it's just kind of right smack dab in the middle of nowhere. And when it was built, the population of this town was like 300 and something people. But they have this massive 4 or 5 floors, if I remember correctly, massive red brick hotel. And it's not super fancy like some of the ones we've been looking at here in New York. But by that town's narrative, it still doesn't fit. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It's just way too big for the narrative of that little farming town of Didsbury, Alberta at that time period. And I was just blown away. And of course, it had mud flood windows and
it makes no sense, right?
All kinds of crazy stuff going on. So it's not even in big cities where they have these hotels.
It just, it's one of those things. It's what is a glitch in the matrix?
You have these little towns in the middle of nowhere that have these massive hotels. And again, more than one. There was another live stream that I did about the town of Frank, where there was that Frank slide in 1904 or whatever that buried half the town. And then I did a Google drop of the town next to it, which is only a few miles down the road. And that little town that only has about I think, I don't know, 700
Yeah.
or 800 people in it, has also a big, massive hotel. It's like, are people flying from all over the world to
Uh-huh.
stay in Didsbury, Alberta back in 1901? No, because there were no airplanes. So what, you know, were people traveling
Uh-huh.
from all over the country, all over
Well,
the continent to stay in some little
like,
town?
what's the implication for population? What kind of population might have existed in this old world civilization, right?
That's the
If you're
thing,
seeing
is
these all
that,
over the place.
not only did they mess with the timeline, but I think they messed with a lot of what they were telling us was the real population. And I think they still are, 8 billion people or whatever they say now. I think they're
Mhm.
still kind of messing with us on that. I mean,
Yeah.
short of a guy going out there and actually doing a head count, which would be next to would be impossible. You know,
Yeah.
so
It
yeah,
would,
maybe there wasn't just 700 people living in Didsbury in 1901 when that hotel was built. Maybe there were thousands of people living there, and
mhm.
they wanted to hide that history,
Mhm.
so they invented
Exactly.
some kind of wacky narrative.
So, I mean, this ties in with the whole catastrophic event, that a lot of this research gets into.
Hmm.
Um, what we think of as rural, were they really rural? Was there infrastructure that was basically wiped out, right? And then what we're looking at now in some of the what we think is a natural infrastructure is the result of cataclysm and devastation, right? And then we sort of dug ourselves out of the mud. And in some areas we didn't dig ourselves out of the mud. We just left the mud, and then trees grew on top of the mud, and whatever else it might be.
Yeah, that's why I think
You
here,
know,
especially in southern Alberta, we get
I think
the
it's.
rolling hills, right, where it would have been like a slow moving mud flow that creates these sort of almost like waves on the water, not big, massive, crashing, crushing waves, but waves on the ocean, the
Mm,
movement of the tides and
mhm,
what
mhm,
not and what have you. I don't know. A guy's not a sailor, but you know what I'm saying. So the
mhm,
rolling hills of the mud, eventually, like you said, it hardens,
mhm,
grass and trees grow over it. And if you didn't know any better, it's just the rolling foothills before you get to the Rocky
mhm,
Mountains or whatever. Look at the top of this thing. That's amazing.
mhm, mhm. I mean, I know. Well,
That is so hard to
trees.
do.
Most trees aren't much older than 300. If you find a 300-year-old tree, that's old. Oh, this, yeah, yeah. I know.
Incredible.
Um, it almost feels like, yeah, a lot of the foliage is so young. I'll switch to so I'll switch off the hotel nerve. There's some crazy ones in here. Like
Wow.
I
Oh,
like
yeah,
these
there you
ones. These
go.
are nice. Okay, let's do this one for a bit before we switch off. Yeah, this is Hotel Manhattan. So let's take an overview. Okay, there we go. Hotel Manhattan. So no small structure, right? Look at this subway.
Yeah.
That's the subway entrance, isn't
Yeah.
it?
That's the subway entrance.
Look here. You see, here's the lights. This is, remember, Stuff Beagle did a really good live chat a couple months back on the street lights.
Yeah. The
You know,
pavement
I can't
lights.
remember, so sidewalk lights or whatever
I
they're called.
found some of those here in
Look at
Calgary, and my
this. This is
video.
all of this is that to light up the air. No doubt to light up the area down below.
Yeah, I found some of those here in Calgary. My video that went up this morning, Sunday, by the way. Today is Sunday, December the 18th, by the way. But my video that went up today was I
Mhm.
found some pavement lights here in Calgary on 7th Avenue. Look at that, cobblestone or brick
Yeah,
streets.
cool.
I love the
Uh-huh.
I love
Old,
the juxtaposition of
right?
the
Like I
streetcars
point this
and the
out a lot
horse
in
and
my
buggy.
videos as well. This is old. Yeah, getting in the way here, crossing the tracks, the horse and buggy. They don't have to follow the tracks anymore. The horses, they probably love it. They're unfettered with the wagon
Yeah,
wheels.
that's right.
They don't have to pull these guys anymore.
That's right. Oh, it's a lot
Uh,
easier to pull this
Look at
cart
them
than
just
that
roaming
bloody
free on those
streetcar.
streets, crossing those tracks.
I can color outside the lines. Woohoo!
Yeah. Oh, what's
Yeah.
going on here? Dismantling or installing?
Yeah. Who knows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That even
I've seen
that
a
see
lot of
that
the
little
bricks being taken up
underground.
in photos. So this is I think
The underground entrance that's on the corner
Yeah,
of the building.
this is what I wanted to zone in on because
Super fancy. I love that.
yeah, we had a chat about this, right? This is where speakeasy down there, gentleman's club,
Yeah.
little coffee area down below
Yeah.
here, maybe.
But all along the front
Right
of that building,
over here,
there's
you see
below
this up here?
ground. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's more there.
Amazing.
Let's see if we can see. Oh, not
But
much
there is there too,
there.
because they had to
Look
put
at
a
these
fence
cars
there.
too. These look old. This is not like, oh, we just put this. We figured all this stuff out. Oh, here's more bricks being taken up. I would say this looks like a big pile of dust. I think it's being taken up.
You know, I noticed that on a lot of these old pictures that along the side of the road, what you would call sort of the gutter where the sidewalk, the edge of the sidewalk meets the street, a lot of these old photos have piles of debris. And I don't mean somebody putting their garbage out. I mean piles of bricks, wood, stones. And then you're like, oh, well, it's a construction site. Well, no, because the building right next to it is finished. So they're not working on that building. So why is all that shit piled up there?
Yeah.
You know, were they clearing something out and just haven't hauled it away yet?
Here's a good one too. Let's here, I want to dissect this one.
Yeah.
Let's so this is the Hotel Manhattan. So it's basically to what you were saying on the here. Let me just check here. Hotel Manhattan, New York, and let's go. They probably won't find it. They're probably like 8 different versions, but old. I'll go old. Otherwise, we're just gonna guess, and we might just end up guessing anyway. But 10 by 6 historic. Okay, it's probably in here.
It is.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah. So what I'm getting at is I want to figure out when they say this thing was built.
Okay, that's a St.
We get the backstory on a bunch of these bitches in here. Let me just
Warwick.
No, Warwick.
The Carlisle. There's always a Carlisle hotel.
I assume it's in here. The Plaza. All old world. Look at it all, right? It's just.
Ooh, the Pierre. Fancy.
Maybe it's not in here. We looked at the Algonquin, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see it. No, it just mentions Manhattan. Okay, so I'm gonna. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Let's take a guess.
Keep rolling.
This building. When do you think this was? The narrative. What do you think they tell us this was built?
I'm gonna say that they are gonna
early 1900s.
I'm gonna say 1897.
That's a good shout. And then, do we have a date on the photograph? Look there. Look. They've scratched this out. That's interesting. And then they've.
Not sure.
1904. Copyright 1904.
Not sure why they scratched it out, because it's the same wording above and below, like 017419 Hotel Manhattan, New York.
I know, right?
Same thing.
Maybe they didn't like the. I know. Isn't that odd? So this is the Detroit Photographic Company, which actually Mind Unveiled did a good video on that company as well. But they do provide us with some fantastic old photos. That's for sure.
Yeah, like this is a nice photo. Nice res on this one.
Basically exposed this company for doctoring photos as well. It is, yeah. Okay, so let's continue with my hypothetical or storyline here. So you say 1897. I think it's a good shout. Anything earlier than that, I think, is a stretch for the narrative. I mean, maybe to the 1880s, but this thing, I think they need to pull these up as close to 1900 as possible.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense according to our narrative.
Like I sort of backed it up to about the late 1890s because it's New York, right? So now our narrative is, New York is really old and it's, New Amsterdam and all that stuff, right?
Yes. And
isn't
I hear you. So 1904 is the photograph, 1897.
And isn't part of the narrative of why New York was renamed?
Yeah, go on.
Why Toronto was renamed, because Toronto used to be called York. And New York was New Amsterdam, and then they
Oh, yeah.
changed New Amsterdam to New York, and then Toronto changed from York to
Amsterdam
Toronto, I
to
think,
New York. Yeah.
because of the confusion between New York and
Huh.
York.
Huh. Hmm.
I'm not
Interesting.
100% on that, but
And there's still a lot of York in that area.
well, yeah, there's North York and all that, and then there's still York, England, of course.
Interesting. Yes. Yes. All right. So let's go back to, so we're less than 10 years old, according to our little hypothesis on when this was built. And this is a 1904 copyright.
Right.
So about 10 years old, say, this building in this photograph, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, the dead giveaway is this area down here, to me, this area. Look at the street.
Yeah.
Look at the wear and tear here.
Yes.
These are sectioned too. I think a lot of these are stone in these old sidewalks.
It looks like there's a patch
right?
just to the
So this is a dead
just
giveaway.
to the right of where those guys are crossing the street. It looks like there's a
Yeah.
patch on the road.
Yeah, and here.
Yeah.
Oh, here.
Looks weird, right?
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Look at, you can even see how rounded this is. This is it all. It's old. This is old. So to tell me that 10 years previous to this building was being, this excavation had to, 15 years, let's say, this had to be excavated and then built from the ground up or below the ground up. And then you're telling me that this all is fresh within 10-year period. That it doesn't make sense to me. My mind says I don't think so. This looks like it's well intact and it's been there for a long time. That's what all this looks like.
Definitely the condition of the street looks very worn, very used, very aged.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the piles of debris everywhere, the patchwork done. I mean, those bricks were not laid into that street, at least in my opinion, weren't laid in that street within the last 10 years. You can see how there's waves and lumps and bumps in it. Again, the patchwork on it. You could see debris and mud along the gutter as well. And don't forget, they had street sweepers and guys to clean up the roads because there were horses everywhere. So they didn't want horse manure, right? They didn't want road apples all over the damn streets. So they kept them fairly clean. Yeah, that's what, road apples are. Horse shit. Yeah.
I didn't know that's what road apples are. I've never heard that term before. Brings a whole new meaning to the hip album.
Yeah, that whole tragically hip album's called Road Apples. Yeah. Gordon Downey, God rest his soul, he was a jackass.
I'm sure Gordon intended that.
Oh, for sure he did. He was funny as hell, that guy.
Yeah.
Look at this thing on the top.
Yeah.
Now you can see weathering on the side of the building too, in the stonework.
Wouldn't you like to stay up here again? The wraparound balconies, and then they get the rails.
The railing.
These windows all have their own little rails.
All the little portals.
Kids don't fall out. Yeah. Oh, look at this one.
That's those little bijou balconies.
Lucky duck, eh? This one. Yeah. Oh, the neighboring room's got a balcony, hon. How come we didn't get the balcony, the one with the balcony? Yeah. Cost a little extra for this.
Yeah, an extra $20 a night
compared to the ones next to it. It's interesting. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Those are probably the rooms.
And then of course these.
The ones with those little balconies.
Why did you have to put these on each? And why just on this floor?
Well, yeah, you can't see them from. Unless you like half hanging out the window, you would never see that. And then from the ground, you won't see that.
This. You see this?
The statue's holding up the balcony there.
What do you make of it? That's easy to do, right? That's easy.
Oh yeah, sure.
Why wouldn't you in 1897?
Two guys could do that
instead of a 90-degree bracket.
You get a couple of Italian stone workers there in 1897 in New York with some chisels and hammers. They could whack that out in a couple of days.
Well,
get Mario and
Grandpa's
Luigi
Italian
up there.
stoneworker, right? So Grandpa's a wizard with that chisel.
Sure, you get Giuseppe up there, and he's got it done.
Oh man. Yeah. He learned the ways. He learned the ways in the old country before he emigrated on the boat.
That's right. That's the narrative.
Right.
Incredible place.
Yeah. Even this thing, look at not far over. Look at this. This has got to be some sort of opera house or something.
Yeah.
Look at this
Look how
structure
fancy
here.
that is, right?
Oh, columns up here, not down here. Columns up here, right? And then the side is just that. So the
And columns
facading,
way up
right,
there
is like
too.
they're made to be look at these guys at the top. Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, those things that look like
Yeah,
urns.
interesting.
Yeah, they're you see those everywhere. Sometimes they're round, sometimes they're squared
Energy
like those.
container. An urn is a container, right?
Yeah.
You do. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
There's a portal in that building across the street too.
All right. There's so many of these that could go. Like I'm just past the halfway mark on this.
Wow.
So there's so many in New York. I've been meaning to do a video on these old hotels of New York, but where do it take so long? Big, right? Massive.
Huge.
Or I'll cherry pick a couple.
Just big.
Yeah.
Rounded corners.
What's this? These ones are lost.
So there's that building technique you were mentioning on that
Some of
other
these
hotel.
are just lost to time. They're just like so vague and obscure.
They sort of make those sort of indents to allow maximum sunlight in all the windows and stuff. Oh, there's a blimp in the picture. There we go.
Yeah, you start to see the infrastructure repeat itself, right? Look at this. I'm just noticing this now too. Look at this. Why would you have that just there? Look at how many stories up, and this room gets columns and arched.
Yeah.
This area, this office building is paying a little extra to decorate that corner. I think that's funny.
That's the corner
right?
office.
This little spot right here.
That's the corner office of the CEO of whatever company is in that building. So it's got to be all fancy on the outside. Jeez.
Yes, it is. CEO, they needed fancy, the CEO. Yeah.
That's cool that there's a blimp in that shot. Oh, the Hindenburg disaster. It just popped into my head. The Hindenburg.
Oh, Hindenburg.
That's that Zeppelin that burned up.
Yeah.
The Hindenburg.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. The Hindenburg was a Zeppelin? Is a Zeppelin the type of vehicle?
Zeppelin was the company that made that type of blimp.
And Hindenburg was the name of the vehicle? I think that might be it.
Yeah, the Hindenburg was the name.
Yes, German made.
Yeah,
right,
the Hindenburg was the name of that one particular blimp that caught fire. And then, of course, after that, no one's allowed blimps except Goodyear. Goodyear, for some reason, could still use blimps. I don't know why.
Yeah, right. But only at football games.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Or state fair or something. You know, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to talk about something with you here this morning. I just recently came across. So if you're up for segueing our conversation to that would be I'd be into that.
Yeah, fire away.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw. Did you see John Levi's latest?
Yes, I did.
He released one midweek.
Yeah.
It's this one here, and
with all the structures in Antarctica.
I found it interesting because what I'm finding, what I think. Yeah, Antarctica.
Yeah.
Right. Here, I got it going here. And it looks like, ruins of Antarctica, which obviously no one's ever seen before, which is exciting. I love the topic of Antarctica. I think it will unlock, or it unlocks a lot of the mysteries of our existence, but we just don't have access to much of that, I think.
Yeah, I found this to be quite fascinating because
I got in on the comment thread there, and I thought this is interesting. I love Antarctica.
Prior to this, I had never seen ruins like this in Antarctica. I'd only ever seen the ruins of the old whaling fishery stations, where they'd process after they'd go out hunting whales and harpooning whales and stuff. But I mean, this is like columns and stone and stuff. Those other whaling villages that were abandoned were all wooden structures, right? So nothing like this.
Yeah. So I got into some conversation with people in the comment thread, and there's people that are into the technology, like the AI picture construction technology, that were basically right away it jumped out to them that these were made by using that program.
Okay.
AI program, I guess. I don't I don't know much about that, but so I got into a conversation with them. I said, okay, well, I don't doubt it. Like there is an aspect of some of these photos that is a little bit distorted, that don't look the same. Like the one we were just looking at with the hotel there in New York. Everything's so crisp and stuff, but there's almost like a blurring of the blending of the lines in a lot of these photos on this video. The topic itself is, I think, of what drew John in on this one. So I did a little digging on the onto the website. Here's my comment here. I get into all these conversations with these guys. Edgar Reyes is the video he's pulling this off of. So I did a little digging on this guy, and he's been accused of using AI to distort old photos and then not telling people. That's what this conversation's about here. So I had so I'll show a couple more for those of the people who might be watching that haven't seen it. So get this, right? It's really starting to look now that the lines are being blurred to me, and it's hard to. I think you could definitely make the case that this has been altered, doctored.
Yeah, perhaps so. I would also suggest that, of course, severe temperature swings affect the way that the image is captured on the film, and therefore later on when the film is developed. So extreme heat or extreme cold.
Question. I mean, maybe it's a blending of both.
Extreme humidity also can affect the end result of your photograph, film photograph. Obviously, not so much digital. But so, like, that's not to say that this couldn't have been AI manipulated or created as well, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you. So I got into this conversation with a creator of these photos, and they said, okay, well, here, I'll prove it to you. I'll make a bunch of photos. I'll send them to you. I'll email them to you.
Okay.
And I'll show you how easy it is to do these types of photos. So we've seen a couple of Johns here now or the ones Edgar Reyes who's from. John's just showing what this Edgar Reyes has been presenting as photos from Antarctica.
Right. And these are supposedly from what, like 1910
I got a file here now,
or something
I'll show
like
you
that?
what I was sent. So yeah, 12 maybe 1912, I think, is what they're saying. This expedition that no one's really ever heard of. Let me just find.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right there, 1912.
AI modified pics. Here we go. So this is. So this is what I was sent from an individual that was basically picking apart the photos in that video. And this is what this person apparently made for me on Friday to show what AI can do. Right. So I'll show you a couple. There's only a handful here, 9 of them.
This first one, the only part.
So this is the AI constructed.
The only part that really looks hanky to me are the two buildings kind of on the left, where one has sort of a little domed cupola on top. At the base of those buildings, that sort of dragged effect where it meets the mud looks a little funny to me, just at the bottom of those two buildings. Yeah, right in there. Yeah, that looks odd.
Blurred.
But everything else kind of seems legit-ish.
So, ish, but there's and if you weren't looking too hard, and then of course, because it's old and has all this, you can, maybe our minds can explain away imperfections in the AI algorithm creation by basically saying, okay, it's an old damaged photo, and that's why that looks blurry, right? So it's a way to like hide that, the lack of precision. So here's a good one. This is similar to what we see in that Levi video.
Yeah,
similar.
This looks a little bit more convincing,
but also having that sort of blended feel again. So interesting. Again, looking very similar.
The building in the distance makes it look kind of phony to me. If that wasn't there, this would be a lot more convincing.
Yeah.
If there was just that little one in the foreground.
This one's a bit better, yeah.
Yeah, that looks pretty convincing too.
Again, this one looking very similar
to
the ones that we saw. Yeah, if you didn't know, this not so much. I think this looks a bit more of a mishmash to me.
Yeah, it looks a little too fanciful.
But at the same time, who knows? Hmm. That thing there looks like Disney, some sort of
Yeah.
yeah, the physics of it doesn't work for me. But and of course, you've probably seen a lot of these floating around, these weird jungle pictures and creatures from the jungle. I don't know. They make their rounds on social media of the last 2 months. In the last 2 months, with this type of stuff in there, right? And this
Yeah,
looks
I've
looking
never seen that kind of.
very fictional.
I'm not really on social media, to be honest. Not even Instagram, Facebook, none of that stuff. So I don't really see a lot of this sort of thing
Yeah, fair
unless
enough.
it's YouTube.
Yeah, I've seen. I'm on all sorts of Twitter and all that stuff, and the little TikTok videos make their rounds on Twitter, and I've seen it make the rounds. People have all these pictures, these distorted photos of creatures from the jungle and lost expedition type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's just AI distorted videos. Anyway, or pictures. Sorry. Here's another one. Again, this proportion doesn't look right. Could, if this wasn't here, you might think, but maybe not. Like, so this person who made these for me, and I appreciate them doing that. It's just trying to illustrate how easy it is to
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, again, this
make
last
these.
one, if it wasn't for that big statue or whatever that is, it would be a
Excuse me.
lot more convincing. But you can definitely see the similarities between the two sets of photographs, the AI created and the ones that John's presenting through
Yeah.
his research.
And then the broken edge on the side. The facial distortions are a big one. You can see this looking like cartoonish, right?
A little, yeah, it looks a little
I don't
odd.
know if you can see
Yeah.
that, but looking like stretched, this face looking pulled down. So what this person is telling me is that fingers and faces, the AI algorithm is having trouble with to get looking more realistic for some reason.
Fingers
So that's a
and
giveaway in some of
faces.
these photos if there are people in them. The detail involved, maybe the accuracy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but this is what they were telling me in an email just yesterday. So it's interesting for sure. I mean, I love the whole topic of Antarctica. I think there's so many mysteries to our existence that Antarctica holds a lot of secrets. John's probably going to get a bit of backlash for this video, I would think, but I know he doesn't care. He's just sharing what he finds. And I'm cool. I'm cool with that too.
After all these years, I'm sure John's used to the slings and arrows, and it always comes in ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
He may have months where he's not hearing a peep, and then there'll be a couple of months where people are just busting his balls about something.
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you with the whole fascination
of
Antarctica and the sort of the hidden history. Things have been veiled around the narrative of Antarctica because we see in old maps where Antarctica supposedly at some point there was no ice there, and there's drawings of different animals on Antarctica, some kind of camel, I think, some other kind of like birds and different fauna, but then also different plants too. Like there's some drawings on these old maps that show trees and flowers and stuff. So whether these photos are legitimate or not doesn't take away from some of the mystery that surrounds Antarctica. Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard a quote yesterday and I really liked it. See if I can remember it properly. I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense, of course, right? That's basically
so that's where I'm at. Like,
that's basically what we face every day in this community, right? Like, when we're trying to uncover, some semblance of logic and truth to what's been going on.
You thicken your skin to criticism and insults. That's for sure. Like you have to. Like you have to be able to take it. That's for sure. I like to dish it out as well on my comment threads. I like to poke at people that want to poke at me. I just have that instinct in me.
I've kind of
So,
switched my
yeah,
mindset
I
on
don't know.
the ones that,
There was
for
one other
lack of
thing I wanted to talk about too.
a better term, the trolls, right? I used to try to double down on my explanation as to
Yeah.
why I was thinking the way I was thinking, and that doesn't work, right? That just evokes more vitriol, shall we say. But so
Sure.
instead, what I started doing was just kind of, like you said, poking back, messing with them a little bit. And that seems to get rid of them a lot more than trying to reiterate your viewpoint.
Oh, or like Socratic. I use the Socratic method where I just ask questions
Yeah,
back,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What do you think of this? How, that type of thing. And it's not trying to explain anything, but it's just pulling more questions out of Santa's sack.
That's
Here's
right.
some more
Yeah,
questions for you. While you're here questioning my video, why don't you question this, and this, right?
yeah. Seems how we're on a
So,
roll with questions. Let me ask you a couple. Yeah,
um,
yeah,
one other thing I wanted to show you. Yeah, since you're here, and thanks for coming. I always thank them when I get the trollish comments. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you watching my video. Um, you know, because it's true. Even you don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but if you took the time to watch it, appreciate that, I guess, right?
yeah. Sure. And
So,
we talk about that too all the time in this community. We don't want to be in an echo chamber where we get, confirmation bias all the
yeah,
time. You know, but if somebody comes at you with an opposing viewpoint and they
no,
do it respectfully, great. But if they come at you with, ad hominems and insults and no
uh-huh,
counterpoint or no counter argument,
uh-huh,
then yeah, I just tend to dismiss it. But if they come with
yeah,
some legitimate, thoughtful questions or concerns about some of the information, then sure, I mean, I'll take that just as seriously as anybody else. Absolutely.
if they're actually like legitimate digging,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I mean that's part of what we're doing, right? So, um, okay, I want to segue to one more topic, if you don't mind. I'll have to get going within the next half hour or so.
Yeah,
So
no
kids
problem. Yeah,
kids are banging on the door here.
yeah. The junior
They're all waking up.
explorers are wanting in on the
Yeah.
action.
Okay. So just I think so. I need a few more mics, right? Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
Santa will bring
So
some for
what I've been doing
Christmas.
just of late, the last few days, uh, Santa will bring some pictures of old buildings for Dad. Is what they joke about. Yeah.
That's good.
Okay. So what I've been doing. So I like I like the cataclysm catastrophe scenario. I know Michelle Gibson gets into it. Are you familiar with Michelle Gibson?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would think so. She's quite the researcher, and
I subscribe to her.
she gets into
I've
the
been
distorted
subscribed to her for
timeline.
a
She
while.
even gets in. Yeah, there was a fantastic chat with her yesterday on Veritas. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Are you familiar with Veritas TV?
Yes, I
Mel
am.
Hostelrick?
I don't think I'm subscribed, but I have seen some of their stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so I think they just sort of um, activated their YouTube channel again. I have to find it, but I don't know. Yeah, anyone who wants to, I could probably just search it. But Veritas TV, great chat with Michelle Gibson. Let's see here, worth a look. But anyway, we're getting into some of her work here. Let me get back to my world map. So my thing of late is basically looking at the aftermath of cataclysm, of the cataclysm, because I do think that there was something that happened. Like I brought up Michelle Gibson because she dates the whole timeline within the last 500 years, 1492 to 1942.
Yeah.
She's got some sort of timeline schism going on there. But so are we looking at are we looking at a realm in ruin? Some not, because we do have all this old world evidence. I don't know if we're looking at a second phase of old world construction or if it's all part of the same timeline. But my research right now has me digging around the ruins of Spain. And it's one of those things I just sort of zoned in on, found a picture and decided I would look around. So what I've done is exactly what you're seeing now. I basically go around in Spain on this map, and then I'll just click in on all these types of areas here. As you get closer, the groupings of pictures become more defined,
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually click in on. I think it's pictures. It must be pictures that people upload. Anyway, it's not, for some reason they're not coming up. They usually have a little icon with a castle on it or something, and you can click in. So I'm just going to share some of the photos that I've found of Spain, and I want to get your input on what you're seeing here. We can kind of chime in on what we think is going on here.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yeah, I think there's some unexplained for sure. So even this one looking like something that's been charred with the dust all around it, I think.
To me, it looks like
Like
sort
all
of
of this around here is almost like something like burnt.
yeah, like in the center of the photo, it looks like there's maybe some kind of structure, and then all of the sloping around it appears to be either meltage or some kind of debris. This is the kind of stuff to me that I don't see around here where I live, but I certainly understand that it's in other
Mm-hmm.
parts of the realm. And to me, this looks like this sort of the direct energy melting type stuff that a lot of people in our community explore. And that you definitely
Yeah,
see,
I mean, we all try to explain it. A lot of people try to explain it.
like to me, it looks either
Yeah,
it's
I'll
been
show you more.
melted
I'll show you more. Like
or it's the
um,
debris that has crumbled around it, one or the other, right?
mhm. Yeah, like a debris, like a fallen down, but to the side of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just me scouring the Spanish countryside, and so you get this a lot too. And this is something I wanted to bring up: the contradiction in building materials, or the variety of building materials as it looks to our eye. Right? There'll be more better examples, but you get a lot of these roof structures, obviously in this area of the world, that sort of clay or terracotta tile roofs,
Yep.
and then a lot of these old ones you get this like hodgepodge rock looking stuff. Here, let me get to a better
Like,
example. Here's a good
yeah, like
example.
field stones that
So
are
what
just
are we
collected that
looking
are
at
of
here?
different sizes and
This is
stuff.
easily recognizable as red brick.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would
Mm-hmm.
agree.
Why is this red brick? Right? Why is this red brick? And this is what we call fieldstone. How do you stack fieldstone like this? And in such a way, like that's and then why? Is this like an after the fact repair? Or is this or are we looking at some sort of effect that changes even these? Why are these in here? you know, why are these? It's not the same building. Are you just grabbing whatever rocks nearby to finish this wall, and then you have this perfect arch?
I could sort of see
So
how
are we looking?
the
My question, I
main.
guess, for you is, what do you think? Are we looking at?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Excuse me. Oh well, are we looking at the result of some sort of cataclysm that actually changes the molecular structure of objects in our reality? Is this what's gone on here?
Hmm.
Or
I don't know about that.
you
What
know,
to be honest, I'm looking at
I wanted to get
this.
your take
I'm
anyway.
looking at this. Let's call it a wall or a structure. Well, this is one wall of a structure. It looks to me, obviously. So, I mean, I
Uh-huh.
can definitely see how,
Uh-huh.
again, using their narrative and the timeline and all that, limited resources. I don't know where we are in Spain, but it could be just in the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
So we don't have a brick
Uh-huh.
factory. So we're going to
Uh-huh.
collect
Most of them are
stones.
in here in this one, yeah.
We're going to collect stones and we're going to build the structure out of stones.
Yeah.
But then later on, perhaps
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
this area became populated, there was things like people moving in that were more skilled than perhaps just agricultural workers, more than just farmers and animal herders. And so a small town with a basic
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure develops. And now you've got, let's say, a blacksmith, and now you've got maybe some brick manufacturing technique, maybe not kiln-fired brick. Maybe this is just the sun-dried, handmade clay bricks, but then they come back in afterwards now and add some detail, like
Like the
arches
ones
in
in New
brick
Mexico.
after the fact. Like perhaps the stone wall of the structure was built 100 years prior to when they went in
But only
afterwards.
halfway up.
Well,
What about this one?
well, that could be a repair. Like, I don't know. Like, that could be a repair where they shoved a stone in there. It could be, or it
No,
could
you're
be
right.
that, look, I
It's
have a
possible.
limited
Yeah.
number of bricks. I've only got 600 bricks, but there's field stones all over the place. So I'm going to build my structure, my home, let's say, out of field stones. But then I'm going to surround the doors and windows with brick because it's nicer looking. It's more symmetrical, so I can get a more symmetrical entrance to my dwelling using brick. I can get more squared windows that later on I can put glass in if I use brick rather than field stone around the windows. That possibly could be it too, where from the onset,
No, I mean,
it was a mix.
I appreciate the argument for sure.
From the onset, it was a mix of different building materials, and I have a limited number of bricks, but I've got stones coming out the wazoo, so I'm going to use stone for the majority of my structure and just highlight it with brick. Because I don't think that.
What about this one?
I don't think that there's something that can turn a brick into a stone or a stone into a brick, unless you get into the whole we live in a computer simulation argument where anything can be turned into anything. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy, when the bullets from Peter Quill's gun turn into bubbles because because what's his name turned them into bubbles. But I don't think there's any kind of
Thanos.
Thanos. Yeah. When Peter had to shoot his girlfriend there, and Thanos just wanted to see if he would do it, but turned his bullets or his lasers into bubbles or whatever. But I don't think there's anything out there that can turn, change the molecular structure. I mean, alchemists have been trying to do it for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, change lead into gold and stuff. Perhaps they were able to, and that wisdom and knowledge has been lost to us. The ancient mystery schools and whatnot that Bill Cooper used to talk about. But
yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
I don't see how you can aim something at a structure and turn all of the bricks into those rocks, except for the ones that form the arch around that doorway on that wall we looked at. But again, if we live in a computer simulation, then again, anything can be turned into anything. A tree can be turned into a person. It's just a matter of pressing a button in the program or whatever. Again, I'm not a computer guy. I'm not a programmer, so I don't know. But
I like this one. No, it's interesting perspective for sure. Yeah, I mean, my eyes is starting to see I see the result of some sort of cataclysm, and then whatever's left is just for some reason didn't receive. Like it's like the popcorn kernels that didn't pop. The evidence that's left to me, it's like
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Pop at the bottom.
Yeah, there's always like a dozen left in the bottom after you pop a bunch of popcorn. Yeah, you always get a bunch in the bottom of your bowl afterwards that haven't popped, and you can try popping them again.
Bowl
and they
for
won't
me
pop.
is like when you get to the bottom and there's they won't pop. Yeah. And the kids try to crunch them and break a tooth.
Chip a tooth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that being said, about the whole, that wall that you showed that had stone and brick, and then shoved within the brick arch, there were some stones. I did on this same video that I just uploaded today, where I found the pavement lights. I did also go into the back alley behind these buildings, and I did find one building where it looks like a repair job of some sort because the main portion of the building was stone. But then there was just a bunch of brick kind of shoved in willy-nilly, kind of here and there. And there was also wood shoved in between stone, like a wooden plank shoved in between stone and brick too.
Oh, yeah.
And just from my observation, it looked like it could have been an old doorway or window that they blocked in with brick and then also did some repair work around it. with brick and just sort of inlaid that in with the stone. But it's definitely really hanky looking, right? So,
Here.
yeah, see, that's
Mm-hmm.
very unusual.
Mm-hmm. Here's more of this, more of that same. It is, isn't
See,
it?
to me,
Yeah.
the bricks that they
So,
use
I
on
mean,
the
I am.
corners of the buildings give it some
Go ahead.
stability, and then they build in the rest of the wall with the stone because the stone is
Mm-hmm.
asymmetrical. But then we also hear counter to that argument, though, is we do hear that
Mm-hmm.
in like the Incas used asymmetrical stones because it gave more stability during earthquakes and stuff. So, I mean, an argument can be made for both. You know, asymmetrical stone is unstable, but also there's arguments to say it can be more stable. Oh, look at that. See, that's what the hell's that doing in the right there on the side of that hill? That's crazy.
Anomalies, right? I mean, even down here.
Like that wasn't.
Yeah, right
that's what. Yeah,
yeah,
that wasn't carved from water.
there's.
That was somebody carved that.
Well, that's the thing. Is the argument is that they went in and carved these out, right? Yeah.
To me, that looks.
Here you can see remnants of the roof here. See that?
Yeah. So to me, that was a taller structure that, and the top was kind of melted and oozed down. That's what it looks like to me.
Mm-hmm. And then you have a brick lines. You see this here? You have 2 rows of brick.
Yeah.
Or block or whatever you want to call it. See that there? I never noticed that before. And then you have a sheet again of.
You know what that could be? Is that could be?
I think it's a result of cataclysm. Is what
that could be earthen brick, like adobe brick, like mud bricks, basically. And something happened.
Could be, yeah.
Something happened quite suddenly and quite forcefully to cause that melting or erosion where it runs down. And then when it hits that clay tile or terracotta tile roof, you see how it sticks out a little bit. That would protect the first couple of courses of brick or stone or adobe from the runoff. And then below that, those 2 sort of rows of stone, then you get more runoff or more melt again.
Come down, and
or
then
whatever.
You're right. I know what you're saying, and it hits back here.
Yeah,
you make a good point. Yeah, that's a good observation. Good observation. Yeah.
Potentially,
right on.
You know, but it does look melted or something.
And then let's look here, like the choice of materials. Is this just?
Yeah, big, huge
big
stones,
block,
and then smaller.
It becomes very. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could say, yeah, this was there. This was ruined. They came and finished it, refinished again. Very possible. Yeah.
That's possible. Yeah. Or they used the larger stones as the more of a beefy.
This looking a bit like a kiln of some sort.
A beefy foundation, and then they come and build the upper parts
on
with
the bottom.
brick. Yeah, maybe
finish it.
That does look like a kiln or something, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Excuse me. Let's see here. What else? This stuff's all over the Spanish countryside too. It's very interesting. Some of the shapes that these make it.
Yeah, like that kind of looks like a natural stone, but then when you see in the middle portion there, it looks like bricks in between that. Right in there. Yeah.
This part here,
see?
Right? Yeah. I know.
Straight lines.
That's what my eye sees now. I see. Okay, yeah, that's melted. That's devastated. There's a few good researchers on YouTube I follow, Brick Truth and Our Melted Reality and stuff, and they do a bit of that research, and they walk through places like Alabama and around the Great Lakes, and showing us what's supposed to be an old rock cliff from millions of years old is actually an old wall.
Yeah, so a brick wall. Yeah.
Pretty interesting. We know that we're being lied to. That's for sure.
And I still stand by my.
How far can we take that? You know what I mean?
I still stand by my hypothesis that there were different methods of reset used in different areas of our realm. So, for example, here in Calgary, something was triggered to cause a mud flood, whereas in other parts of the realm, there wasn't a flood. It was a melting, some kind of energy or heat that scorched or melted. So I think depending where you are located geographically in the world,
I wonder,
depends on what the method was. And also, I think there were multiple resets. There wasn't just one big one. I think there were a few.
That's something that gets sort of tossed around between researchers. Is there one big one? Is there a lot of little ones? One big one and little ones? My guess in your region would be that we have a mud flow stemming from the pole, pushing some sort of pulse. It came right down along the Rockies, all fried, and then it sort of a mud flow came down through what we call the prairies and down into the States and all that kind of stuff too, because that would flow right down into Montana and the Midwest, where all the farming or the agricultural states and provinces are. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. The
Like
American
right down
Midwest
through the
and the
middle of the
Canadian
continent.
prairies, very, very similar in terms of the agriculture, the geography. There's not a lot of difference between southern Alberta and northern Montana. I mean, it's just an arbitrary line drawn in the sand on maps and stuff. But you have to go quite
It's a line,
far south to through Montana before you start noticing a difference in the lay of the land, if you will, compared to Alberta. You know, or North Dakota and southern Manitoba, for example, like very, very similar. Look at that thing. That thing's been there for eons, man.
All places I would love to check out. Yeah, this one or the one before?
Well, both. It looks to me.
Both of these are kind of the same. Hey, look though.
To me, they both look like.
Look at this.
Yeah. See again though, it's around an opening though, so I still kind of want to say that maybe around doorways and windows they use the smaller brick, whether it's a kiln-fired brick or a handmade sun-dried brick.
Yeah.
Because it's easier perhaps to work with a smaller stone to do curves, arches, right angles, what have you.
And also you have the corners. You have the corners that are different too, and you see this a lot with a lot of the old world buildings.
Yeah, definitely a truer,
right, where the corner
sort of
is
chiseled
a different
angle
stone.
on
You can
those.
see the kind of design there.
Yeah. Crazy, right? Like there's at least 3 different mediums used on that structure.
This is a contradiction to. Yeah, and look how perfect that 90 is.
That's right.
This is a perfect block. This is a pile of garbage, right? As far as I'm concerned. So it seems strange.
It could have been that it's repurposed.
These are riddled all over the Spanish country.
Like it could be that there was somebody came across remains that were in quite a state of disrepair, and they used field stones to sort of repurpose it as a dwelling, maybe a grain storage, a place to keep animals in at night away from predators, like if they're a goat herder or cattle farmer or something. So they just kind of, I found 2 out of 4 walls kind of half standing on this thing, so I'm going to fill the rest in with some stones and rocks that I find and quickly throw up a wooden roof on it just to make a kind of a slapped up structure out of what I found. And then obviously over the generations we come to where we are now, where we're living in founded buildings that have been repurposed. Oh, it's a church. Oh, it's a school. Oh, it's a courthouse. Yeah, sure. It's kind of the same old story that's been going on for eons, the repurposing of older, more ancient structures. But now the history of the past of those old structures
you see
is being hidden. Here too. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's just funny how some of the bricks and stones are mixed within the wall, though. So to me, that kind of just shoots down the narrative.
Yeah. That's why it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Again, like building logic doesn't dictate, right? Like so something's off for sure.
Yeah, definitely unusual. Yeah, look at that big, huge entranceway there. Yeah,
they're everywhere.
Oh man, and it's funny because if you're just hiking, right? Like let's say
this reminding me again of places like this elsewhere as well.
There's places like this in Alberta.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
like in and around Drumheller, Medicine Hat,
and all that type of stuff there. Yeah, a dinosaur pick on there.
Yeah, like what they call the Badlands here in Alberta, right? The high desert that supposedly was a huge inland lake or inland sea at one point, according to the narrative. But yeah, look at that. I mean, that's obviously a structure that's just had the shit beat out of it somehow by something. Wow.
Yeah, it's not time, right? It's not time that did this.
And it's
Like,
2
I think
floors.
that's how our narrative explains away. It's just, yeah,
At
it's just
least
really,
2
really
floors.
old. It's like, well, really, really old doesn't devastate material like this. And this is melted in the front. This has been fused.
Yeah, that
Look
looks
at this.
melted for sure. Yeah.
Like it's,
At least to me, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting.
Sort of like candle wax, you know, how it just sort of has
Yeah,
that
it's,
look,
I mean,
you know, for lack of a better term.
yeah, like the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when his face. Oh no, in the Raiders of the Lost Ark when they open the Ark, the guy's face melts.
Yeah.
That's what came to mind when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that scene
I
when they
do.
open the
I
Ark
do. Absolutely, I do.
and the face goes, whoa.
I was lucky enough to see that movie in the
Yeah, wax
drive-in
melts,
when I
right?
was a kid. My parents took us kids to see that at the drive-in when I was a kid. I was lucky.
Oh wow.
Yeah, love that. I love the indie movies. Well, 1, 2, and 3 I like.
Wow, that's cool. They still have the drive-in in Calgary, probably.
Not anymore.
Oh, where was that? Actually,
It wasn't.
That
It was in
Montreal?
Calgary. Yeah, we had 3 here in Calgary at one point, but now there's none left. The last one shut down, I think, in the early '90s because it was next to a small oil storage facility, and one of the storage tanks caught fire, and it obviously the burning oil caused problems with the soil, right? And it's now considered unsafe. The soil is toxic there, so they shut down that drive-in. Again, the old story of some fire or explosion ruining something good, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of, this is melty.
That looks melty.
Melty.
Yeah, that looks melty.
Right. Drip, drip.
You know what causes me to think that it's melted rather than, you know, the formation of stalagmites and stalactites is because it looks like how, let's say, the condensation on the side of a cold glass of water or a window, where it's a teardrop shaped. It's fatter on the bottom of the leaking downward, which leads me to believe that it's melted.
So it's accumulated.
Yeah, it's like as opposed to it being net skinnier on the bottom, which would be from erosion because it would lose velocity, speed, and force as it's being pulled down towards the ground. Whereas if it's melting, it has that sort of teardrop shape, at least to my way of thinking. Again, a guy's not a scientist, so I don't know for sure, but
no, I hear you. Yeah. What do you make of this? Isn't that strange? A little passageway. That's kind of romantic.
That looks like it was built as
a little
to get
built
from
between these big rocks.
Yeah, to get from the rock on the right to the rock on the left or whatever. Nice looking, handsome dog there in the bottom of that picture.
Oh, you think
too,
it's
in the arch.
maybe it's a bridge. I was thinking it's just I think it's for old world wedding pictures.
Yeah.
The bride and the groom would stand in here and then
sure, yeah.
They take their old world camera.
Why not?
It's the only thing I mean it's
that's probably the narrative.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Why would you have this in here?
The old Spaniards built that so they could have their 1400s wedding photos. Look at those.
That's right. That's right. That haven't been dug up yet, but the Smithsonian's been keeping it from us.
Look at the size of that wall. And you know that wall goes way down.
Look on the top here. This is fused, right? This is, yeah. Megalithic, right? Is that safe to say we're close to megalithic in size here?
Getting very close to megalithic size, especially some of the larger ones. Yeah.
Feeling that megalithic. Am I right in assuming that's a size thing? Like when we categorize something as megalithic?
Yeah, lithic meaning stone, I believe, and mega is the size, megalithic, right? Because they use lithic a lot, like Neolithic, and and for all these time periods, right? So I think megalithic means large, large stones, large, yeah, it's definitely remnants of.
And here too, an old dam.
Yeah, dams are another thing. Dams and old
There's
reservoirs.
Something about the old dams. I think many of the dams are old world.
I think so too. It's part of the whole water system.
I think there was a coating. Yeah, I think they've coated a lot with concrete and things like that. A lot of the old world evidence, like you're seeing here, has been coated in the new world, what we call the new world, I guess, and other places. There's a cover up going on, I think.
Yeah, they would just put
as goes on in a lot of
they
places.
would beef it up with more modern material like concrete or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, or hit it with shotcrete or something like that, or
Yeah.
gunite.
Yeah.
Something like that, or just put a shell over top. That happens a lot too. Yeah. So I like these two, and these are all over in places like Europe. These towns where they just kind of go right down to the water.
Yeah. And it's
really, really neat places. Makes you want to travel, eh?
It makes me want to go to places like this and just walk around.
Makes me want to travel. This kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure it does.
I have a coffee, have a smoke, and let the kids run around in the creek. Yeah.
I'm having a coffee and a smoke right now as we speak.
These in the middle of nowhere too. Oh, I'm jealous.
That could, yeah, that could be like an old aqueduct, or perhaps the perimeter wall to a city or a town or village, and they put the arches, so that's where your travelers and your population, would come to and fro through those arches. Or it could have been that it was a aqueduct carrying water on that top portion. Who knows? It looks like the walls is a perimeter wall of a city or something, and then those arches were just an access point to come in and out of the city, maybe. But still, like, look how old it is, and look how quite fancy those pillars look with the little carving detail around the tops of the pillars and stuff, right? Like just around the circumference.
These are nice. This is, even though, despite its age, this is
yeah, it's not rustic looking.
Still impeccable work.
It's still very refined looking.
No.
Look at that. That's all.
Here again, you have the whole melt narrative.
Yeah, that's been bombarded with something. I mean, that to me that looks melted.
Turkey, places in Turkey that I've come across.
Yeah,
it's been devastated. I think cataclysm, right? But this not.
Probably not as old.
In my mind, it's got to be from the same time period. Why this, but not this? Maybe.
So I'm thinking the stuff that's melted was from an earlier reset or cataclysm. And then that thing in the background that you were just looking at is probably also been damaged by some kind of reset, but of a more recent reset. And I also think that there are natural resets and man-made resets too.
Not to the same.
I think at some point in our pasts, the ones who were calling the shots,
yeah, but not to the same extent.
Figured out.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
figured out a way to trigger some kind of stuff. I think maybe. I don't know.
Well, interesting you said about the Matrix or like the simulation earlier, right? Like, I know. Are you familiar with is it Jason from Archaics? Have you heard of that guy?
Yeah, I've seen him on Autodidactic and on Bernie's channel there too.
Yeah. So like the simulacrum, he calls it, and we're in a simulation, and I find it interesting. I mean, I haven't listened to his stuff in a little while now, but I find it interesting how he says, like, he's very well read into old books and history with his time in prison and all that type of stuff. And he readily quotes all these things from all these books, like, Herodotus from 3,000 years ago and blah blah blah. And in the same breath, he'll tell you that it's very possible that all this is just a mathematical AI algorithm that's been implanted on our reality to give us a false sense of history, which is interesting, right? He's like, I'll still quote it and I'll still say this happened, but it starts to read like a repetitive pattern after a while that feels more like a mathematical algorithm.
Right. And you know what? That
I think that's an interesting
that might actually also lend some credence and speak to the thing that I often, and I think you and I maybe have touched on this in the past too, where it seems like there's like a finite number of narratives, and they seem to rubber stamp. It's like they have 24 narratives about cities, buildings. Oh, this one's a church, and it was built by these guys, and then those same guys happen to build, like, that same architectural firm happened to build 50 other buildings across the United States or whatever, and they just kind of rubber stamp stuff. So it kind of lends itself to that too, where there's only so many predetermined outcomes in some kind of computer program or simulation. that can be used in order to keep the thing running.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard you bring that up before too, like how the American cowboys and Indians narrative is recycled for Alberta. And what I'm seeing here as I look through Spain, I'm seeing that whole New Mexico region, the red area of the states being recycled, and they actually have some similar aspects to that here in Spain as well. So you see certain narratives sort of repeat themselves. Of course, you even see names of places repeat
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. Names
I
of
think I looked up Springfield,
yeah. How many Springfields
Simpsons
are there?
Springfield. I do you know how many are in the States? Take a guess. Take a
I'm
guess.
gonna say 18.
I looked it up. It's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. Double that.
Really? Wow.
36, I think, is what I found,
Wow.
including counties, townships. 36 Springfields in the States.
See, so it makes you wonder what's
Yeah,
the
my son really got a kick
significance?
out of that. We looked it up,
What's
and
the
he's like, "This
significance
is
of
ridiculous."
Springfield, right? Like, where does that
Hey,
come from, and why is there 36
I,
rubber
I did,
stamped
yeah,
Springfields?
I
You
didn't
know?
think of that. I didn't even think of that part of it. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, and of course that repeats itself. Each state seems to have one of these and one of those, and that's why I kind of zone in on the states. It's like a microcosm of the realm, really. Like there's so much there. Small town USA has a lot of secrets that it's keeping from us, I think, and that's kind of why I sort of dig into what's going on down there as a microcosm of the entire realm
Yeah,
and how things have
yeah. It kind of breaks the
transpired
whole.
down through time. It's the most recent memory wipe.
Yeah, and it sort of breaks down the whole big picture into smaller, sort of bite-sized portions that are a little bit easier to dive into.
Hmm.
Right, like you said, if you look at it at a state level or at a city
Yeah.
level, and these little townships and stuff, and you can kind
Hmm.
of say, okay, like, this little town of 2,000 people has the same infrastructure as big major cities or even entire countries. It's just on a smaller scale.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. It doesn't make sense. Like I'll pull up an example here too. I'll switch out from that other stuff. I like this area, Dubuque. Places like so. This is here. We'll do one more. Roll through this quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't want to
great,
keep you for too long here. Let's see. I guess it is a Sunday morning, I guess. So nice to have the feet up on a Sunday.
absolutely.
I'm off
And
for a
it's
couple weeks now.
and like I said, it's freezing here today, and you were saying it's actually even colder where you are than where I am right now. So it's a good day to be
It's
inside and
about the
relax.
same. It's close. Yeah, they say they're telling us anyway. I'm sure if you checked another phone app, it always seems to be different too. You could have 10 people in a room, and everyone pulls up a different temperature. That's how I find that a lot with these apps on the phones too. It's like, how can that be? We're in the same spot.
Yeah, we're standing
Okay, what are we looking at
2 feet
here?
away from
Field
each other. This
view.
guy says it's minus 28, and I say it's minus 30. What's going on here? Yeah, yeah,
Isn't it silly? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Because I was saying
what do I have
I
open
was
here?
saying it
I think I
was
opened up Dubuque.
minus 30 here, and you were saying it's minus 33 there. But let's face it, anything colder than minus 25 Celsius, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It just feels cold.
It's nasty cold. Let's just call it nasty cold.
Like we're getting close to minus
Yeah.
30
Okay, so
Fahrenheit.
one
So
more little peer. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know that that's a difficult translation for me to do at a certain point. The Fahrenheit to Celsius comparison.
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
super complicated equation
it's
that
kind of,
drives me
doesn't it
nuts.
like level off as you get colder? Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. All right, so we're looking at Dubuque here. Right nestled in this area. We looked at Green Bay. I didn't have a lot on Green Bay, but Dubuque has got some interesting stuff. So I'll just roll through a couple of these and then see what you think.
Oh,
Dubuque,
there's the
Iowa. Not
old
much to the town
Carnegie
anyway. Very
Library, of
small.
course.
Yeah, here I'll go back to it. Excuse me. I still have that file, and I haven't made a video on the libraries yet, but it's in the works. Been busy with work the last couple months myself. I haven't done a lot on the channel, so so many files to get to now.
Oh, of course, always.
So many photos.
Look at that house, stone house, and then with the conical dome, and then the one behind it that's got the big dome on it. And those look like houses with domed roofs. Like, it's beautiful, but why? Right? Like, wow.
Well, that was common. That was commonplace, right? The dome mansion with the dome
Sure.
roof. There's another high school. This one's got a little dome. Little
That's a high
different.
school?
Very castle looking. Yeah,
Oh, it
senior
says
high school.
okay, yeah. See, if that wasn't written on there and you were to ask me what I thought that was, I would have
If we're looking
said
at the same one.
I would have said that's a prison. It looks like a prison.
Yeah.
Which some would
a good
argue
shout
high
too,
schools
yeah.
and prisons are kind of the same.
With the course with the cathedral entrance. Well, there's that. Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be a brewery, right?
Excuse me. Yeah. It has to be. We know. We don't even have to look it up. We know it's a brewery. That's obvious. I don't actually have what it is, but yeah. And this is something that's been destroyed. Julian
Ooh,
Hotel.
yeah.
Destroyed. The remains of a hotel.
Yikes. See, even this little hotel, it's got that nice conical dome on the top there. Beautiful, And it's just a little guy, but still, still making it
like building
kind of
this
fancy.
bump out here. If you were to design this building right now, why would you do this? If you're doing this nowadays, like it's the amount of work that goes into making this a part of the structure. It's a lot.
Sure.
It's a lot to take in, a lot to build, a lot of cost added to the build.
Yeah, if you were to approach
just for a little detail like that.
If you were to approach a builder
That's why we don't do
with
it.
plans for this and say, okay, I want you to build me this hotel that looks like this. And he would say, yeah, I can do that. But are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure? Sure. Because that's going to cost you an extra
Sure you want this?
couple of
That's gonna
$100,000.
take us this much longer, and
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're gonna have to call in some specialist finishers to get that done properly.
That's right.
Can't just use my regular guys because they don't have the skill set to do those curves that you need.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an orphan home. Mm-hmm. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I like the style.
This is just the Dubuque Club. Just a club. Mud flooded. See this here?
Yeah. It's got the foamy foundation.
Yeah, this would be a place for cigars, right? Coffee, cigars. Maybe have a little chat about what business you're going to take over.
Yeah, you sit around with your.
How's your son doing at college?
You sit around with your barren buddies, smoking cigars and drinking brandy, and talking about how you're going to buy out some bankrupt business for pennies on the dollar. Notice the low windows are of different sizes because the street goes down on an angle. So you have the little itty bitty one, but then around the corner you have bigger windows.
Yeah.
So, okay, Mr. Builder, man, can you build me this building? Sure, but you're going to have 8 different size basement windows. So if one breaks, you're going to have them custom made every time. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally normal.
That's true.
Don't build consistent size windows for me at all to make it easier.
It'll cost you a lot more. Or a consistent foundation, street level, right?
Yeah.
You always bring it to grade. If on a build, you always bring the surrounding area to grade, to a specific grade, and you want it to be as level as possible. This is a weird one too. Julian Dubuque, the tomb of Julian Dubuque is nearby. Weird stories with a lot of these towns in the States. Just seems made up. Seems Disney to me.
Yeah, that tower thing looked really
Look
old.
at this,
Look at the size of this brewery. Huge.
Is this might be the one we were looking at? I can't tell. Maybe not, because we just had a street view. These things are massive.
Full city block. That takes up an entire city block.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Factories, breweries. Yeah, I know. And it never fails. All of these, they all have the basement. These are all excavated. All of these go down.
Yeah.
And up.
Which there's that tower again.
There's
Just right up on that freaking hill.
that tower on the hill
That's
there.
easy to build.
Getting some
Sure.
weird, similar to what we saw here.
Just haul a bunch of stones up there and build your scaffolding up there.
Julian.
And, no problem. Bang that out in a weekend, me and my brother.
We'll make it a tomb to the founder.
YMCA.
It's funny because I've actually been
weird,
watching
right?
Simpsons a bit lately with my kids, and
yeah, go ahead.
they're really poking. They are, yeah. Simpsons really pokes at the narrative. Small town USA really pokes at how stupid we are, or how basic the whole simulation is. To be honest with you, so it's interesting looking at it from that perspective.
There's a lot of questions about the Simpsons, right, where they've seemed to have predicted stuff almost in some respects. It's very very odd.
Absolutely, yeah. There's all sorts of stuff. Look at this one, Home for the Aged. Or aged.
Yes, an old folks home.
I'd say this is the home for the aged.
Because if you're so old,
I don't know if you can,
that you have to be put into a home,
it's old,
right? If you're so old that you have to be put into some kind of institution where they can look after you properly.
This is the old folks home.
Yeah, you're so old that you've lost your vision. You're half blind, but we're still going to make this fancy, beautifully, aesthetically pleasing building for all the residents inside that are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s that without their reading glasses on, I can't even see that.
Interesting. You don't. That's right. They don't. You don't see a lot of these ones in the old narrative. Old folks' homes, basically, right? You don't see. So I thought that's interesting. Dubuque's had one of those. Here's a modern day photo of Dubuque with
look how old that is.
Stones here, megalithic almost again there.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's sagging from the weight of the modern old bridge railway on top of the older structure. Look at that.
It does, yeah. Old world narrative with the steam trains and the rail system, right? So,
look at that. Look at those.
A decent picture of something.
Bloody stones.
These are huge.
Yeah.
Look at these things.
Okay. And old. Look
and old.
Yeah. Look how
new. That looks like it's been there for a long time.
Yeah. Look how aged. Speaking of aged, look how aged that looks. Those stones.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting. And of course, the banks.
Oh, the home for young ladies.
Home for young ladies, though. So we had the one for the aged. Now we have one for young ladies. It's so silly when you start to dig into the narrative. You start to see these glitches. It's like, this is ridiculous.
Well, it's such a vague term. For ladies. Well, what ladies? Single ladies, spinsters, young professional women that are moved into the city to find work. Like what? A home for ladies? What ladies? Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't say home for orphan women. It says.
Not right now.
It's just very vague.
Sorry, I got my little fella here. I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, no, no, I'm okay, thank you. Sorry.
No problem, of course.
They're asking if I want a pancake.
Who wouldn't want a pancake? Now I want pancakes.
I don't. I didn't want one. Yeah. No, it's interesting, like that whole reset narrative with the orphan homes and the homes for young women, like you said, and of course the church is wrapped up tight and all that crap.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, governments and all that type of thing.
Look how beautiful these.
I mean, there's a lot of ugliness to all that. So we like to look at the beauty when we look into these, but look beyond that.
The castle. That looked like a castle, man.
All right, it looks like I'm getting. Which one? This one back here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Sorry. Home for the aged again?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
What?
And look at those low windows again.
Okay, this is another secret society, right? The Pythians?
Oh, the Pythians.
Yeah.
Home for aged Pythians and orphans.
Pythians.
Wait a second.
Orphans.
So is it a home for aged orphans or the aged and orphans? Yeah, that's funny wording there. Home for aged,
I would think
Pythians
aged and orphans. And the
Huh, okay.
And the Pythians is, I think, an offshoot of the secret societies as well, like a Masonic branch or something like that. The Pythians,
Yeah, not sure on
as
that
far
one.
as I know.
Let's look it up and see here.
I remember looking
Pythians.
that up. But yeah, you're right. Castle. Yeah.
Knight of
Easy to build a castle
Pythias. The Knights of
back then.
Pythias is a fraternal organization and secret society founded in Washington, D.C. Knights of Pythias.
Secret society.
It looks like a lot of their symbology, they use a lot of the same symbology as the Freemasons and the Oddfellows and all of them. So it's just a different offshoot by the looks of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be no shortage of those too. Like especially in the small towns, right? Yeah. They had to do the reset narrative was controlled obviously by these nefarious organizations, which contained mostly people probably didn't really have the clear picture of anything. They were just going about their business, trying to make a buck, trying to start a family, trying to create an empire. But I think most of these people had no idea that they were in a reset narrative, or if they were, then they knew to keep their mouth shut.
Or they were sent off to one of the mental institutions if they didn't keep their mouth shut. This guy's crazy. Send him away. You know.
Oh yeah. That's exactly it. That makes me think of the narrative of sending your kid to college. You know, I was thinking we were joking about the old wealthy guys in the Dubuque Club having a cigar, griping about their young man who's at college who won't buy into the narrative, wants to travel, wants to do this, doesn't want to follow the pattern, right? But that whole cultural narrative of ours is basically, you know, we have that instinct to we're repelled by their system, so our instinct wants to take us away from what we're supposed to be doing for success in life, all the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
So you could see that as part of the narrative, the reset narrative, and how that had to be solidified. And prestige is a big part of that, right? Creating the prestige that comes along with buying into their narrative. It'll come with all sorts of societal status and all the rest of it, right?
Yeah, which is very elitist and very, I mean, again, like what we talked about earlier, it puts people into little boxes, right? It helps create this sort of class system, you know, where you must do this and you must do that and follow the narrative in order to be, you know, an accepted part of our modern culture or society. Look at that place, man. Like, that's just amazing. The clock tower and the conical domes and the arches. It's a high school? Get out of here. Jeez.
No, this is the detention center. Yeah, it's a high school. It says it's a high school right here, yeah. It's this is detention up here. If you get detention, you got to stay up in the clock tower, right, until you're let out.
That doesn't make any sense. Just sit out in the elements because you were a bad boy.
Yeah.
You were talking out of turn in class or passing notes, so go sit outside in Iowa in the winter.
That's right.
For your detention punishment.
The back of teacher's head.
Yeah, sit out in the rain, out in that exposed clock tower, and think about what you've done. Jeez.
Yeah. All right, I think I gotta end it here. I'm being summoned. I'm being pulled away here.
Sure. So, hey, I get it. You're at home on the weekend with the family.
Chat.
Yeah.
It's been a good chat.
Oh, I appreciate you taking some time again. I love sitting down and chatting with you. This is great. Thanks again. Fantastic. You showed some awesome stuff as usual.
We have to do it. We have to do it fairly regularly.
I like
that we can put our heads together and and scratch our heads and put our heads together, and I like that. It's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of a good sort of a team up, tag team, collaborative look at all kinds of wacky photos and just trying to, you know, bounce ideas off of each other and spitball stuff in real time. And I think that goes a long way to not only getting to know each other better and also for both of our viewers to know us better, but it also helps just to hammer out, you know, like we kind of spitballed quite a few theories around today just to kind of figure out, what potentially could have happened, and what the narrative to cover up
Yeah.
what may have happened.
Coming to very little conclusions, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, we're not coming to conclusions. We don't know.
yeah, absolutely not. I've never said that I know. I've
Yeah.
said I think,
More what is it? Rather have
or I'm guessing that this, that, and the other, but I've never,
Yeah.
at least to my recollection, I've never said it myself in any
Yeah.
of my content.
One thing I know
I
is
know
I
for
don't
sure.
know. Yeah, you can't, because that's not what drives our research, right? It's not the mindset that drives our research.
Yeah, and speaking again, getting back to the whole
I'd rather have
Marty McFly Back to the Future thing, short of having a
the
time
questions
machine.
without answers and answers without questions.
Yeah, right. And short of having a time machine and
Yeah.
going back to be able to answer some of those questions without those answers being questioned
The
or
DeLorean.
challenged, I mean, you can't do that, obviously. So, I mean, the next best thing we can do is try to really scrutinize what we do have available to us in photos or what have you, as much as we possibly can, and get as many sets of eyes on it as we can. So yeah, what you and I did here today with our little conversation is great. And yeah, I definitely would love to keep doing this kind of thing for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. A couple months maybe, and let some time go by and do it again. I'd love to.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, you have a happy New Year, Frankie, and all the best into the new year for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, same to you. Happy holidays to you and yours and the little ones there, and happy New Year to you. And yeah, again, thanks again for coming by today.
My
And,
pancake's probably getting gobbled up right now.
yeah, so you might as well wave goodbye to that pancake.
No problem. Pleasure. Oh man. Yeah.
I'm gonna go make some pancakes and sausage right now because it's only 11:30 in the morning here. So I'm gonna have breakfast for lunch, I think.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks again, and once again, happy New
Okay.
Year to you, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that
Yep.
good
You
stuff.
take care.
And thanks again, and we'll talk to you real soon on the next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
same to you. You bet. Yeah.
All right, and stay warm. Stay warm out there. All right, there he goes, our friend Old World Exploration. Really great to chat with him, as always. He's always brings a lot of interesting, thought-provoking material to the table, and exemplifies what these live streams that I do here on my channel are all about. Just nice chill, just a nice chill chat, sitting back, relaxing, maybe peeling back a few layers of the infinite onion to try to at least get on the path to figuring out what happened, and doing it in an interesting and kind of a fun, relaxed way. A little bit of humor in there, and of course I'm biased because he's a fellow Canadian. So yeah, there you go. There goes our friend Old World Exploration. And once again, all the links and everything for his channel will be down in the description box below. So with that said, I think that is going to seal the deal here today at New West Reset. Once again, my name is Frankie, and today we were chatting with Old World Exploration. So thanks to all of you for shooting in, joining both of us here today. Really appreciate it, as always. And, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you're kind of watching this thing after the fact, if you could just kind of beep, boop, bop it down there for me, that'd be great. And please head on over to Old World Exploration, show them some love, as well as to all my guests, right? Oz Beast and Billy Philly 22, and show them some love as well. They are doing great work in their respective areas of the realm. And as we touched on in the past and in this stream too, we all have our areas of, I don't want to say expertise, but our areas that we like to focus on, our wheelhouse. So it's great to come together from different vantage points, different points of view, with sort of different experiences, and kind of put it together and try to puzzle some stuff, try to piece together some puzzles. So there you go. Thanks again. Take care of yourselves out there, and to all of you out there, happy holidays to you. All the best. And until the next one, have a good one. All right. Cheers.